So long.
One way to go.
Okay, welcome to the Lions Bay Council meeting, November 7th. It's 6:01. With that, a motion to call the meeting to order.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. We'll move to item number 2, closure of the council meeting due to the two topics, legal and labor. And that's from section 90.1, 90.1A, C, D, G, I, and K. M and N. Okay. We have a motion to close the meeting.
We'll move that.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll move into the close. Maria, if you can pick anyone off.
Hey.
Okay. Carl. Welcome to the meeting November 7th. It is now 7:03. So thank you very much for attending the council meeting. Motion to call the meeting to order.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor? Okay, move to item number 3. There is nothing to report out of closed at this time. We have taken a recess on closed, and we'll pick it up again at the end of the open meeting. So there could be something following that. Okay, item number 4 is the adoption of the agenda. Any amendments to adopt the agenda?
These two items
Yes.
to the correspondence section.
Okay, I'll move forward. I'd like to add the LGMA.
Did we get a motion to adopt?
But before you, these operators propose how to add these to council's consideration before you move to adopt the agenda.
Okay,
CAO's advised us that we discuss the amendments prior to moving for a motion. So I will suggest that we add the LGMA, and what it is applications to the Responsible for Conduct Resource Administration Committee. They have a grant of $25,000 for communities that are under 20,000 population and are in need of some guidance. So I would like to add that to the letter section, and later we can move for follow-up. There's another item, and that is from Patrick Wheeler's office, and that's to do with accessible funding. And again, we may be able to access some funding. We had hired last year, we hired a bylaw officer with cerebral palsy, and I think there is opportunities for funding there. So I'd like to add that as well. Okay, that's everything for me. Anything from the other councillors?
just a question on these two things. They haven't been distributed electronically, right?
Yes, they have.
They have? Okay, so Marcus has got them.
Yes.
Okay.
Where would I have this? Sorry, I don't have these in front of me.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So I emailed these out to all of council recently. I can't remember whether it was Friday or Monday, but it was an email.
I saw that.
I emailed it as soon as I received it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other items? Problem?
Okay, could I add an item under resolutions, and that would be an operational authority of CAO Blackwell. One item, and the second item under new business, I guess. Request CAO to review motions which may contravene current existing policy. So if I could add those two items under new business.
Okay. Any other amendments?
I would like to add something here. I would like to see us strike, let me just go to this item 10D2 and 14A. I don't know what that means under new business discussion of correspondence, but I suspect it doesn't qualify as new business. So I'm not sure why that's there. I have a thought as to why it might be there, but if I am correct in that, I would move that we strike that.
Sorry, can you read that out? So Can you read that out?
It's in the agenda, and I also would suggest we strike 10D2.
Could you, what are we
Could
talking?
you read that out, please?
That's all
So
from
just
me.
for clarity, that's 14A, discussion of correspondence to council from a Lions Bay resident.
Yes,
Okay, and what other item was it?
I've mentioned it twice now. 10D2.
And that is the finance committee update. Did you want to provide any, okay, I guess we can debate that or discuss that. So any other amendments? Okay, so that is, the amendments are the additions from Councillor Broughton, the two letters from the LGMA and Councillor Wheeler's office, and the elimination of the finance committee update. Okay, do we have a motion to accept the agenda with the amendments?
Discussion?
Okay, second,
I'll second.
okay, discussion. We'll go to Councillor Cunliffe first, Councillor Broughton, Councillor Abbott, Councillor Reuter.
I guess my only question in regards to, because I was not at this table when the finance committee was formed, but I do remember discussion about the terms of reference. Were they ever brought to council for adoption? I can't recall. I don't know if somebody can clarify that. So if they weren't, then technically we don't have a committee, I would suppose. Maybe Ross, you can provide clarification.
I'm sorry, is that to do with the agenda?
You were talking about
It's talking about striking the finance committee's report.
I'm just not sure if it was ever adopted as a formal committee, because I don't
Okay.
recall there being
Maybe we can,
the terms of reference coming to council for.
you ask the CEO to
Yeah.
provide some clarity.
Thank you through you. So with a standing committee, the mayor has a letter to establish these committees and to populate those committees. And through that, establish terms of reference associated with that committee. Unless no terms of reference is provided, in which case the committee is empowered to develop their own terms of reference. It's set out in the procedures bylaw. I was just looking for it now. So as far as the information I have at this point, I would say it is an appropriately established committee.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess I've had discussions with you, Ross, in regards to correspondence being included in the agenda, public participation. We're kind of trying to get a grip on how that is technically supposed to work. My understanding from our discussion was that any correspondence or participation should be related to what is specifically on the agenda. And then if it is not, therefore it should not be included. So that's what we have a delegation for, to bring new business, correct? Something that's not on the agenda is led through a delegation. So in the case that this is correspondence not related to the agenda, then I would imagine that it would be appropriate to have it struck. That be true.
Thank you
Mayor?
through you. So there's a lot of information out there regarding constitutional right to speak to council, and said there's all kinds of case law on it. The bottom line is that council is not required to receive any by law, not required to receive any information at a council meeting with regard to its agenda. It's not required. Many councils do that because, of course, they want to ensure transparency and engagement with the community. So between those two extremes, what is good practice? Well, normally, so long as the correspondence is not defamatory or way off topic, talking about slaughterhouses and rush hour or something. So it pertains to normal, village business. it's appropriate to put it on an agenda. So long as it is addressed to all of council. Normally, what happens is that all of those items of correspondence are just simply, by virtue of adopting the agenda, they are, what's the word I'm looking for? Received, thank you. Normally through that process, council is given the opportunity to pull any of those pieces of correspondence if they want to speak to them, because they may want to propose a resolution. I'll give you an example. There's a letter from Ross Blackwell, who is the chief executive officer for this disability organization. He's requesting that council designate the first Tuesday of every month as Ross Blackwell Day. You could leave that on the agenda, not comment on it, or you may say that's a great idea. I want to bring this forward. So you pull it, you talk about it, and you make a resolution or propose a motion to make every Monday Ross Blackwell Day. Saving except for that, there's no need to speak to any item of correspondence on the agenda.
Okay, so I guess my final comment would be that it would seem that the finance report would be appropriate, but the correspondence getting into some murky water, so probably in lieu of not actually having eyes on it, I would not want to include that in the agenda. Yeah, I'm fine with the other changes. With the exception of the finance committee, include that.
So my recommendation with this is not to debate the amendments, is just to vote on the amendment. So it either passes
Or fails.
or fails. And then if it fails, then they entertain a new motion. You add or subtract, and then you take a vote on that. And it just keeps going back and forth until you get to content that is adoptable.
Okay,
Okay, Councillor Brown.
I would not support item 14A being removed clearly because it is a fully constituted committee. And
that would be, sorry, D would be the committee. 14A is the.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, 10B2, thank you. Okay, yeah, so that should stay on the committee and or on the agenda. And I'm starting to feel quite challenged by the fact that items are being removed from the agenda on an ongoing basis. So I really have some difficulty with the whole concept of preventing ideas and concerns brought forward and reports being brought forward. But anyway, so yes, I would support all the items except for the removal of 10B and 14A.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Start with 10D2. I'm in favor of it being removed for two reasons. One reason is part of it is the finance committee chair choosing on his own volition to respond to resident correspondence or receive that resident correspondence. That's not what we decided to do with it. I don't think that's appropriate. He doesn't get to make that decision. Other parts of it have been stated over and over several times, and they're not accurate, and I disagree with them. So I don't really think we need to have that debate again. But if it stays on the agenda, I will. So I'd rather we just remove that for those two reasons. I'm good with all the other changes. I don't need to speak to them. With the possible exception of Michael's two requests, because I don't know what they are about again, and a simple on-table email before the meeting, as I've asked before, gives us some insight as to what you want to say, and then by all means, let's put it on the agenda. But I have no idea what you intend to talk to. Wasn't on table, wasn't distributed in advance. I'd like us to get back to the good practice of, if it is last minute and you only just thought of it, at least send an email to everyone and tell us what it's about.
Okay, Councillor Ryder.
Yeah, I've got a similar problem. I don't know, Michael, what you're proposing there. I haven't seen anything go on table. I have no copy of it. I don't know what this is, so I'm opposed to that in principle. I think we should also follow some proper procedure there. I think most people are aware of my opinion on the uh, uh, item under 10D2. I would echo what Neville's saying. I would like to see that struck as well as 14A for the reasons stated before. And I'll just keep it brief in that regard. Ken, the two items that you added, I'm fine with.
Okay, thank you. In regards to, okay, so I'll just follow up before we call the question. In regards to the finance committee, the finance committee has provided a report. I think they've done a tremendous job to date. The finance committee was instrumental in passing some resolutions that were dating back to January that took us over a month in which to finally pass them. And I think I voiced my concern at that time, and I know the finance committee had said at that time it was a 5-alarm fire drill that we needed to jump to the pump, and the resolutions at that time, since we're touching on this finance committee, was the banking signing authority in response to a question. It was noted that the CFO would be meeting with the with the auditor.
Deciding whether it's on the agenda, and now you're going to, now you just.
Well, I can read the finance committee's report, which is basically the primary reason that they wrote that report was to put banking controls in place, which this village didn't have. This village had $5.8 million exposed with one signing authority. Okay, and it took us a month to get that approved. So I think we owe the courtesy to this finance committee to get their report, because they stood up and
Did we call the question here?
Attention. No, I'm sorry, I get to speak. Please, we went around the room. Okay, the mayor has his opportunity as well. Okay, so this is a finance report. All right, and it's put forward. And they also addressed, at my request, they addressed our residents' concern about the interest that was made or earned in the account. And so they responded to that. And I'm thankful for that. Okay, so I believe it should stay in there and respect the volunteers' time rather than try to attack our volunteers. Councillor Cunliffe.
I just wanted to say, could we maybe just vote on the agenda and then we can discuss this when it comes to that part?
Okay, I'll call the questions. All those in favor with the amendments?
Which amendments have we accepted and which have we not accepted? At this
We've
point in time?
proposed all of the amendments. Now we
Okay,
have to vote which
we have to
ones.
vote opposed. We have to be opposed. Yeah.
Okay, so we're voting on all the amendments.
Correct.
We're either approving them or opposing, and then we can reconstruct that as Ross has mentioned. So all those in favor of striking those items and also the additions?
I'll be in favor. Otherwise, I think we're never going to get a meeting tonight.
Okay, all those opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Okay, we'll move back to, would you like to amend on the agenda?
The
Start with
proposed,
Councillor
all
Cunliffe.
of the proposed amendments with the exception of this correspondence, because it's been pointed out to us by our CAO that any sort of discussion naming individuals in the village is not appropriate at the council table. I don't know what's in here, and it's putting us in a position that I'm not comfortable with, so. All the other I'm fine with, but I would strike
So second.
14A.
I'd second that.
Okay, discussion.
All right, if I could, can I ask the council to confirm all of its proposed amendments?
The addition of the two pieces of correspondence put forward by Mayor Barry, the addition of the two resolutions by Councillor Broughton, and striking 14A as proposed by Councillor Reuter.
And 14A is the finance committee.
No, that is the correspondence to council.
Okay,
from
so the
online.
finance committee stays. Okay,
Yes.
that's a motion, second.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, question, any discussion from you?
If we struck both that and 10D2, I would be in favor.
Okay, Councillor Reuter, discussion?
Yeah, I would echo what Neville is saying. And I don't know what you're proposing to put on the agenda. I don't have any material. You haven't provided anything. It does need to be provided. to all members of council and the recorder in advance as per our procedures bylaw, so it's improper procedurally. So I would say that those two items cannot be included.
Okay, and I'll speak last, and then we'll call a question. In the last three council meetings, I've put forward a number of items which have not made it onto the council agenda, which the council agenda was sent out with no discussion with the chair prior to it being finalized. So that's 3 meetings in a row that I put forward items on the agenda, and they have not showed up on the agenda. I know for a fact that Councillor Broughton has done the same thing. 3 meetings in a row, items have been put forward to the agenda. The agenda has been finalized, again, with no discussion between the CAO or staff and the chair, who has to present and conduct that meeting. So, no, you know, as far as Councillor Broughton putting forward motions, he's put forward motions and they've been struck before they even got to the agenda. So I'm going to call the question now. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, so we have an agenda now. Councillor Broughton.
Could I make a suggestion that we alter the order of the agenda slightly? I'm sorry, this is improper in turn, but if you bear with me for just a moment. We've adopted the agenda. However, could I ask that the delegation be moved ahead of the public participation? We have presenters here ready to present the delegation, and one of the presenters is actually in a different time zone and is approaching 10:30 in her time zone. So I'd ask out of a courtesy that we do the delegations ahead of the public participation.
Okay.
Not knowing how long our public participation may go.
Any objections? Any objections, Councillor Reuter?
Okay.
With that, we'll move to item number 6, then the 10-minute delegation from Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee. Who would like to?
Thank you.
Okay. Susan Davies is in Montreal currently,
Thank you.
one of the members of our committee. Could I introduce the members just in Montreal? Is Susan Davies in the gallery.
We okay if you?
We have Scott Gordon.
You okay to sit
We
here?
have David.
Or you
David
have to
Lee,
stand?
David Lee, and we have
Up to
Kirsty.
you.
I think we know.
I'm okay with it, Rob.
Normally it's from the time you leave it. I'm okay.
In terms of the,
I said, I'm not opposed to it, but
could I ask that the presenters join the table and that they could just join the end of the table here?
sure.
Mr. Blackwell, fine with that?
I'd say the gallery could probably hear better if you were a little closer.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Could be closer to the microphone and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Broughton, Councillor Cunliffe, of course, are on this committee as well. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for considering Montreal time. I would love to have been there. I had a small accident and I've remained in Montreal for a little while to recover. So thank you very much for indulging me at this time at 10:30 at night. I just have a few opening remarks on behalf of the council. Thank you for your time. We're very excited to and honored to be here. The purpose of our appearance before council is threefold. First, it's to share our progress to date on the current design for the park. Second is to share the timeline required to achieve this scope of work by Canada Day 2024. And third is to confirm council's commitment to partnering with our committee to get this community-driven initiative to the finish line together. Finally, what success looks like in the eyes of this committee is a beach park for Lions Bay that is delivered on budget, in time for Canada Day 2024, a beach park that is the result of a unanimous council, and finally, a beach park that is offered in the spirit of harmony and celebration for what we can achieve as a community in the interest of serving all residents of the village of Lions Bay. Scott Gordon and I began this process at a town hall meeting a year ago this December. I can hardly believe how quickly this has gone. The first apparently since 2016, according to the former CAO. we presented what had previously been envisioned for the beach park, reno, and facilitated a robust discussion around what it could be going forward. I believe most of the councillors were there too. The Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee was officially struck in early February 2023. Its members vetted and highly experienced were appointed with a requirement on the part of council that the committee be guided by 2 co-chairs, one new to council and one experienced. The experienced councillor left and was replaced by Jamie Cunliffe, and both of these things occurred in late spring. In addition, the committee has worked through 2 part-time CAOs and various other personnel comings and goings. And again, and with respect, without the consistent benefit of experienced council to date. However, the committee has done its best work, working nonstop, straight through summer, in appointed roles and as volunteer residents. But today's reality is that in order to continue to progress, we are in need of timely approvals and sign-offs from council. With ever-shrinking value slowly leaching out of the budget of our $2017 million grant, we are keenly aware of the need to push forward between now and July 2024. Notwithstanding the unforeseen changes, we have kept our heads down and our noses to the grindstone, each of us with full-time jobs and as a committee. And we are here today to share our work, to share a timeline that will get us to Canada Day, and perhaps most importantly, to be acknowledged for our commitment to date with a reciprocal commitment from council. Thank you for that moment. And at this point, I'd like to forward to the first speaker on our committee, and that's Scott Gordon.
Thank you. I just wanted to go over an overview of the actual physical design for the park that we see happening. When we met about a year ago, we talked about various components of how they'd be situated on the park, and we've stayed real true to that. The new washroom building is going into the quiet corner. Laurie Beck building will be modified and restored in keeping with the theme of what we see as some of the features of Lions Bay: post and beam, signature trees, and rock walls. The playground equipment is all going to be stacked down one side of the site. Going where it is now, it'll terrace down the hill, and we'll have another rock wall close to behind where Laurie Beck is. The biggest area, well, let's just go back a bit. The washroom building, we retained an architectural firm who has done a great job. The design that we've landed on, which is a very nice little piece of architecture, fits into our budget, is part of your package, and we can talk about that if you'd like. The playground equipment has been tendered, prices received, and will be flexible. It has to be this month, so we can have the July 1st opening. Laurie Beck, we've had some sketches done, and we're pricing it out now to see whether that will fit into the budget that we've got. The area that was in greatest question that we struggled the most with was the existing washroom building. We talked about repurposing it as an open air structure. We have looked at other options for what to do with it, and we finally settled on to selective demolition of the building, reusing the 3 large beams in other buildings on the site. The wood decking will be reused and the metal roofing will be reused, but we're going to take it down. And we're going to take that footprint and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees, as you can see in your sketches. So those 2 little buildings will fit above this rock wall with a little amphitheater next to it, which is a hard surface area with more rock walls around it that we were able to score the rocks. So we see all that fitting together in a really nice little feature. So far, we're on budget. we are concentrating on the larger components because those are the ones which will never get this much $1 million again. So what we do, we want to do well and do it right and then do less now to get a better product with the monies that we got. So that's, and then one last thing is the water sports storage equipment racks will be built. They're one of the major components. We have not spent much time on the sort of redesign of those yet because we're waiting to get the playground equipment finalized. Now we're going to start to look at that design with the intent to create more storage for the kayaks, create some vertical storage for the paddle boards. So we think it'll all fall into place. We're pretty happy about it. And everything's in your package, all the designs, where there's some septic information, there's, everything we think to move forward with.
Before we get on questions,
Could I just mention that the packages have been posted online?
Yeah.
On the village website, so anyone, can access.
Sure. So my name's Kirsty. Thanks for having me. My role on the committee has been to lead the playground portion of the beach park renovation with the committee's assistant, of course. My background is in communications and stakeholder engagement. And, when I was asked to lead the playground portion of it, my immediate thought was, well, why haven't we consulted our biggest user of the playground or the park, and in particular the playground? And that group is kids. So before we even engaged with a vendor, I held 2 focus group sessions in February with over 25 village kids. Thanks parents for bringing them to the hall, ranging in ages from 4 to 13. We had a lot of fun. I took them through interactive activities, brainstorming sessions, or brainstorming games, and provided them with a platform to think big. And while their dreams of having a huge water slide down to the ocean or an airbag like Whistler likely won't come to fruition, we did manage to pull out some nuggets of ideas to help inform a brief for the vendors. In early April, because of limited staff in place, council granted the committee permission to lead the RFP process for the playground to secure a vendor. I took the ideas and insights that came out of that session with the kids and wrote the RFP and line criteria. I identified 4 vendors that we should reach out to. These recommendations came from some of my connections with the West Vancouver Parks Department, the West Vancouver School District, and local PACs. I also looked into their proximity and where their manufacturer was located. After an initial meeting with the 4 vendors at the beach with myself and Councillor Broughton, we were fortunate enough to have 3 of the vendors submit proposals, which is great. These proposals were reviewed and scored individually by the committee members, and I collected and summarized the results. All committee members were aligned on which vendor to recommend, which made our recommendation to council very easy. A request for decision was taken to council to move to the next stage of design negotiations with 1 vendor, and that vendor is Habitat Systems. Habitat actually created and installed the current Big Kids Playground that is down at the beach right now, which was done, I think, over 20 years ago. This decision was approved. Since the approval, I've been working with Habitat to refine the playground designs and cost, and have tried to take the draft plans back to be reviewed with some village kids for some informal feedback, confirmation that I've gotten direction, and of course complaining that there is no airbag there yet. A draft plan example was included in the agenda package that went out to you. I do want to note to residents, this is not the final plan, but one of the work in progress plans that we have received from Habitat. We're looking to bring the final recommended playground designs and costs to the next council meeting for review and approval, with a goal of staff executing on the order of the playground equipment by the end of the month in an effort to meet the completion date for the park that we had set out.
Landscaping. We've had an arborist go through the park, looking for the trees that we had. We got the report, work that has to be done to the trees. Both some taking out, they're a little too thick now, so recommending we reduce the mass of the trees, not reducing We will not be removing any trees, but we will be thinning the trees out. We have, we've obtained 3 prices for that work, and I believe they are part of your package. We're hoping that that work could be done and paid for by Public Works rather than other grant monies. And we're also looking at all the vegetation which is in the park to determine what to move, what to get rid of, and maybe some areas where some potential relocation or so we're working through that land now, ready by the end of November.
Right, and my name is David Lee. The portion of, I was brought onto the committee actually to look at the grant in terms of what we agreed to and kind of put a high level package together of what we need to keep our eyes on. The biggest piece, I think, I put forward tonight is really around reporting, make sure that we are on top of that reporting. We did have some conversation with the province around cost and scope, knowing that our budget was set 2 years ago. And we all know that in the last 2 years, we've seen unprecedented increases in both labor and materials, which means our 2020 dollars don't go as far in 2022, 2023, and potentially 2024. So that was my first involvement, and I was engaged on the committee to help with the construction management portion, project management of the project. And in looking at this particular project with only $1 million, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot. Only $1 million to manage what we've just, heard we want to build. First question that came to the committee's mind was, how would we do that? What's the simplest way to do it, the quickest way to do it, but within the confines of policy that we need to follow with public money? We immediately thought about construction management process, which would be a way to break down the total cost into smaller bid packages that were open and transparent, and allow us to work within our own village policy, which we socialized with the province, and they seem to be okay with that. We have emails saying if we follow the village policy, we wouldn't have to follow the BC bid policy within our own confines. That brought up a decision or a discussion around our current procurement policy because it was a little bit undersized for what we could use. Susan did a great amount of work to look at other similar villages and compare what their policies were, procurement policies were today. And so we put forth that motion or a request for a decision on a revised policy, which I think is close to being done, if not done already. All that to say, we've kind of worked a long way to get to a place where we can more clearly manage small scopes of work. If you think about Lions Bay, it's a very small project. If you try to bring trades in from the Lower Mainland, they're pretty much not interested. And so you're either going to get inflated prices or, poor quality trade. So our vision when we started was really to engage the community, try to use as many local CMs, local architects as possible, and to really build a sense of ownership and pride in what we're trying to build. So that was kind of where we started on the construction management process. We did issue an FRP or RFP to get CMs on board. We went to 3 CMs that were interested in doing the work. One of them, 3 local CMs. One did decline after looking at the package and basically emailed me to say, like, given the workload that they had right now, they could not really, work on it wholeheartedly. We received 2 proposals. They're all in your package. I'm not going to go through that. You guys can read those. But we did land and made a recommendation on 1 CM. What's coming up next for council and staff is really the contract. So it is a cost plus contract, not I presume most of the time you guys are working with a stipulated sum contract. We don't have the luxury of time. If we take another 6 months to develop drawings to 100%, get it all priced, realize we were spending $2 million, value engineer it all down, we'll be 2 years from delivering the park. So we did feel that construction management would be a quicker way to do that and still being as transparent as possible. So we do need to work on the contract. We do need to work on a process around the trades and how we tender that work, how it interfaces with Public Works. Keeping Carl in the loop at all those moments. And yeah, and that's really it for construction management at this point. We have a few decisions to make, and I think it's on us to really put those decisions in front of you in a closed meeting, obviously, and kind of work through all of what has to be done to satisfy the project. We talked about grant review. There are a list of further requests from council in the package, which I just basically, they're all very important. All kind of needs to be done right away. So that kind of maybe sets a framework for another meeting coming up. And that is about it for project management. I think Susan's got a closing section.
Right. I think we just wanted to say if you know, because of over the last 11 months, we have been working in you know, we're non-council people, we're not familiar with all the procedures, and we've done our level best to put things out there at our open meetings and work together to keep moving things forward. If we haven't put things in front of council in a timely way, let that be corrected, because we really do need to move on. The goal is Canada Day. And if we were kings, we actually came up with a resolution ourselves, which out of our mouths probably doesn't mean much, but we would love to share this resolution because this is what we think it's going to take to get us all, council and the committee, to the finish line. So we wrote, be it resolved that council and the Lions Bay Beach Park Action Committee will work together to confirm the scope of recommendations of the committee within the schedule and timelines allotted in order to celebrate the reopening of the Lions Bay Beach Park on Canada Day 2024 together. So on that note, we are hoping that we will be able to have, if not a special meeting, to where you can all have a chance to review that 68-page package we've provided and ask whatever questions you would like to ask. If not at a special meeting, which we have our fingers crossed that it could be that at your earliest convenience. On that note, I thank you.
All right, Susan. So we want to move on that motion that Susan's putting forward.
Could we put the, if at council's willing to accept that motion, I would like to move that be it resolved that council and the Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee will work together to confirm the scope of recommendations of the committee within the schedule and timelines allotted in order to celebrate the reopening of the Lions Bay Beach Park on Canada Day 2024.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
All right, discussion.
Could I add a missing element to that? I think we also desperately need to have staff involved in that. So could we add staff into that?
Yes,
Absolutely. So recommended within,
Okay.
be resolved,
Council, common staff, and
council, staff, and right,
good
Okay.
Marcus.
after the resolution, I'd like to just explain sort of next steps as well, but
okay, all in favor?
I
Yes.
Opposed?
carry.
Carried. Sorry, Marcus, what was your, set of 4?
Yeah, I didn't hear the motion read out, so I didn't know, or did we have the staff addition in there?
Yes.
We did.
Yes, it was with the staff addition.
Very good, thank you.
You for or opposed? Council Ryder.
4, thank you.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, the package has a significant amount of material which involves contractual obligations. And as a result of all the work that's been done and the RFPs that have been put out and so on, we're moving to next steps. The committee is able only to make recommendations to council. Council makes final decisions on moving forward on various, not only in the contracts, but also the process and how we proceed. So much of that will be discussed in a closed session. And because it will take some time, we're recommending, and CAO Blackwell recommended that we consider scheduling a special closed meeting on Thursday
Okay,
at 6 p.m. if that would be possible.
Councillor Cunliffe, your thoughts on that? Committee?
Yeah, like I said, if I'm running late, I'll call in, but
Mhm.
it could be stuff.
Okay. And committee members, you're fine with the Thursday meeting? Okay, I'll call
Yes.
a special meeting for Thursday then,
Okay, perfect.
okay?
So the contractual, the various RFPs and so on, which are confidential, have been provided to council and will be part of the consideration for the meeting Thursday then.
Okay. That's fabulous. Thank you very much to all the committee members, councillors included. Yeah. Good job.
If I could just say that
Thank
the
you.
committee has operated through, as has been mentioned, through incredible challenges and have kept focus on the prize of getting this be on time, but in a very exciting project for the community. And I just can't thank them of each of the members enough for all the work that they've done and the incredible presentation that's been made available here. And just to reiterate that the presentation has been posted on the village website as well.
Yes, Councillor Cunliffe, anything?
No, just thank you.
Okay.
You're working all weekend too.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll move to public participation. We'll go to the gallery first. Any comments? Questions? Please take the podium.
Well, I see in front of me here, I was here on July 18th, probably talking about the same thing.
Sorry, just for the record, just.
My name's Greg Gary. I've lived here for about 25 years, great years. For more than 30 years, I've worked with international development banks on watershed protection and watershed management. This year, the village had a number of small fires. Thanks to luck and rapid intervention by our fire department, some of our councillors, we averted a situation which could have been a lot worse. In 2006 and 2020, the village hired 3 consultants to review wildfire and geological risks to the village and recommend mitigation measures. The overview of in a nutshell, they identified risks which they considered to be moderate to high, both for wildfire and geological risks. Unfortunately, having reviewed these myself, it's not clear to me what has come of these reports and these recommendations. I think that the present council has a golden opportunity to rectify this by raising awareness in the village, within the village, and taking action, identifying priority actions to address these issues. So I asked council to do 3 things. First, review the consultants' reports. Secondly, prioritize the recommendations in keeping with the Lions Bay context in mind, obviously. And third, hold a town hall before the next fire season to address mitigation, possible mitigation of these risks. In my view, the town hall should feature, first of all, professional facilitation. Second of all, Ministry of Transport, BC Hydro, and CN should be asked to give presentations on fuel management as activities that they implement within their rights of way. Evidently, my experience with Hydro-Quebec and BC Hydro, fires are sometimes begin in these rights of way. And second of all, these rights of way could help us as fire breaks For example, if something happens south of the highway, if the highway wasn't a risky area, was managed properly, it could prevent the fire from going uphill. Et cetera, et cetera. Same thing for the BC Hydro right away and the CN right away. Thirdly, our Public Works Manager is doing a great job for us. She'll give us a presentation on resources and water availability to fight multiple and simultaneous house fires. For example, if 3 or 4 houses on the perimeter of the village were affected by sparks and whatnot being carried on the wind, I think that the more 3 or 4 houses would be a challenge for any fire department. The next one would be UBC should give a presentation on their hydrology studies, which have been ongoing for a number of years now. I've seen the first, I saw the first presentation they gave, but this is over a year ago, and I'm not sure if it's not evident to me anyway, where they are with the work now. And finally, last but certainly not least, our fire chief should be asked to give a presentation on mitigating the risk of wildfire to our homes in Lions Bay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, anyone else in the gallery?
Thank you.
Like sweet, okay, can we move to the online gallery? Anyone in the online gallery, if you'll put your hand up. You'd like to speak? Have not seen any hands? Okay, with that, we'll move on. So the next item on the agenda is item number 7A, and that is the approval of the minutes to October 17th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
I got a question on 7A. Let me just move there. On page 10 of the package. Just wanted some clarity under the carried, whether that was a unanimous decision or not. I don't recall.
All right, where are we?
7A, I think it's page 9.
Page 10 of the package under 10C1. Can you just ask me how I voted on a particular motion? I guess the question is to you. I heard everybody else's vote, but not yours that day. So did you vote in favor of this or were you opposed?
My vote was recorded as in favor.
Okay, thank you.
And that is, have you referred that to staff and followed up with that?
Yeah, we have an item on that later on.
Okay, I'll look forward to the update.
That's all from me.
Any question?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 7B is the June 5th minutes, 2023. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Second. Any additions, edits?
Question?
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 7C, April 14th minutes, 2023. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Comments?
Question?
Sorry, April 14th. Yeah, I guess I just have one comment. Randy was by Zoom, right? We didn't attend. In attendance, we normally record someone's
I'm sorry,
on page 14.
14, municipal
Attendees.
advisor arrived, yeah.
Yeah, it said he arrived at 6:10. But didn't he call you via Zoom?
No, he phoned on the telephone. and
Okay.
arrived. Yeah, he was held up by a car accident.
Normally. Oh, that's the meeting he was here. Okay,
That was the day. So I started the minutes and passed them over to him.
I remember. Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Yeah. Carried. Okay, move to business arising from minutes. A business arising, we've item number 9, unfinished business. And that is a follow-up. To act items, page 16 of the agenda. Okay, item 265 is complete. Item 284.
Just a moment, please.
Contact the local.
Just a
member.
moment, please. I,
65 is vacancy tax.
yeah, the 265, I think what we should amend there is that the persons responsible are myself and the CAO. And I think it should still be ongoing.
Okay, all that. Okay, 284, contact local member of parliament.
There'll be a motion in that regard a little bit later this evening.
Okay, move to 287, update on the diesel. That is complete.
Yep.
Okay. Item 293, Bayview Bridge. And Carl Burr, would you like to give us an update?
Sure, I can give you a brief update. I'll just move to the microphone. So we have very few construction items left. Filling in holes in the welding with epoxy. We have to pour a small wing wall that's going to be framed up tomorrow, in fact. We have to move a lock block in place. Then I'm able to call the engineers in for final inspection, remove the scaffolding, complete some landscaping, and then we will actually be done. What remains on the bridge is the ownership and contractual obligations, which is in the CEO's department.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any questions?
I'd say congratulations on getting it to this point.
Not done yet?
Not yet, but
Okay,
to this point, I said.
all right, we'll move to 294, research best practices for correspondence communications. Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. So with regard to communications, you have policy on the agenda for your consideration and discussion tonight. With regard to the best practice pertaining to correspondence, that is something I think better dealt with in a different forum. So I would expect council to be having that discussion in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment on this one? I didn't suggest 1407, I suggested 1704. Right, which you'll find is appropriate. And while you're there, you may as well read 1705, which is also on a similar line. So you've got 4 communications policies that you should be looking at. So, yeah.
Okay, to 295, review of the procurement policy, Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. There's a draft updated policy on council's agenda for this evening. Mr. Cherkoff will be presenting that.
Okay. Looks like he is ready to go.
Got a stack of paper.
Just not yet.
Not yet.
We're not
One of 4.
not up to the agenda.
Not up yet.
Oh, sorry.
Soon.
Soon, yeah.
All right, 296, audit and annual report. Mr. Blackwell.
So we have been working, the VoLB has been working with the auditor with respect to providing the required minutes that they have been seeking. It is a prodigious list, a surprisingly prodigious list. We are inching our way forward to getting that complete so that they are in a position to finalize their audit. So all I can say is stay tuned.
Ross, are you suggesting there's any still missing?
As of, I believe, last week, I would spitball about 15 different sets of minutes that were still missing. Not, some were council, some were committee meeting minutes.
Okay, kind of shocked me because we went through a list and listed all the ones that are missing and knocked them off.
All I can do is tell you what VDO sent me last week. Mr. Chirkov has a copy, Marina has a copy, and we are working together to cross off the list what's already been supplied, what is outstanding, et cetera. So we are.
So they want to see committee meeting minutes?
Yes. Certain committee.
And are those minutes that are new meetings that are happening that are coming up and they're demanding, is it
Those
sort
are
of chasing our tail?
Both, yeah, historic and current.
Did we get, sorry, through the chair, did we get clarification from them that where, well, how this was happening? And it seems to me there was a question as to the appropriateness of it. So it seemed like a moving target. I'm not sure what was that? Were those questions asked or?
So next year's audit's gonna be quite skimpy. Are we gonna get a discount on that since they seem to be doing it on the fly here?
I would hope. So if I could, through you to Councillor Broughton, the question was asked and answered. It's not a BDO requirement. It is a national standard. Mr. Chirkov might have a bit more detail with regard to what that is. This is a little bit of accounting gobbledygook to me. But it is not BDO standard. It is what they are, a standard they are held to.
It's definitely not optional. Okay.
Okay, so that's gonna be worked on and maybe the list can be distributed even before the next meeting when we try to.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, no, the distributor list, I'd like to see some detail on that. It's just driving all of us crazy, I'm sure. I mean, we need to do the next audit.
I hope 2022 will be dealt with before 2024.
Maybe we'll get a 2-for-1. Yeah.
Okay, 297 cost benefit analysis, Ross, update.
Low priority item, haven't paid all the turn my attention.
Okay, 298, call on EPCM meeting. That's council. Okay. You haven't done that?
Yeah, I don't know, I guess it's who gets to call the meeting. It's the EPC coordinator normally calls the meeting.
Yeah.
EP coordinator. I have reached out to him for a couple of times. I do know he had some family issues he had to sort out at one stage. He had to go out to Ontario. I mean, I could continue to reach out to him, or Ross, if it's more appropriate for you to reach out to him.
Sorry, I was reading the list.
298, someone to reach out, Phil Fulkerson.
Full focus, and I've several times reached out to him. Call him EPC.
I'll log a call into him. I'll give you his number, Ross, and you can
Okay.
follow up with
That'd
him.
probably be easier if staff just coordinates it with him.
Okay, 299 staff time on climate change initiative.
I believe this was with respect to that survey. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's been done and dusted. That's over.
Okay, so we mark that complete.
Yeah.
300 bylaw report on parking tickets.
So that is partially dealt with in an earlier closed report, but there's a more fulsome discussion on this matter that will be coming at some point in the future.
Okay, 301 review of secondary suite revenue.
That comes up. Does that come up in the budget? Oh.
I can bring some insight onto that one.
Okay.
So this comes from last year. I put forward a motion to have secondary suite charges not levied against houses that had firefighters and was approved by council. I actually wanted to remove it completely to promote secondary suites, but council concerned the OCP believes that we should have a suitable charge for secondary suites, and so we'd have to deal with it there. But anyway, so we did agree that it wasn't going to be billed to anyone that put a firefighter in their suite. And then when we looked at the budgets previously, I asked some questions about the big variances between last year and this year of secondary suites. And so I was looking for some more detail, and if we could identify how many, if any, are attributable to the firefighter staying in the suites. You had to declare that you had a firefighter and it was going to be checked against the employment role, and then you wouldn't have to pay for it. So we haven't received that information or the answer to that question.
So if I could, I will work with Mr. Cherkoff, who I'm sure is writing the details of this down, so I don't forget. And we will circle back on that information.
Okay, 303 item. Monthly basis budget update, and Mr. Cherkoff, your name's on that. How's that coming?
Later. He's coming up to the table.
We'll do it later, okay. Sorry.
So it's on the agenda.
Okay, so we can straighten that up. Item 304, advised province of BC. That the Alliance may request an exemption to, okay, so that's ongoing. So you'll probably consolidate that with the other. Okay, 305, obtain LBBP committee file copies.
The committee collected together all the documentation as part of the preparation for the presentation tonight, so it'll be, we'll have that available and able to pass that over to Mr. Burr shortly. I spoke with Mr. Burr about that today, and he will be the keeper of the files on this. And it'll all be digital, so should be quite straightforward to get it over to him.
Okay, good. All right, wrap up unfinished business. We'll move to item number 10. Staff.
Two more on the next page, actually.
Oh, right, sorry. Paper and scrolling on my laptop. 306, a rain barrel item.
I can, just look to that one. It hasn't been considered by the committee. We never had a meeting because we had no quorum because a couple of resident members had to travel last minute. So the next meeting we'll consider.
Okay. 307, preliminary guidelines on public participation correspondence response.
That's a duplication of right further up. Number 294.
Okay. Consolidate that as well. All right, that wrapped up. We'll move to report staff and Mr. Cherkoff. You'd like to join us?
You're on.
They're on.
Put back there.
So we got two items. We have the proposed budget calendar and the budget packet.
If I'll go through the budget calendar first. So
Purchasing as well.
and purchasing policy as well. That's good. Page here
We have 5.
and travel expense policy.
You're 5.
So the proposed budgeting calendar here with milestones, trying to formalize the budgeting process and involve all members of council and committee to various departments to formulate a very fine-tuned, realistic budget. So what we're proposing is that so November 3rd, departmental budgets discussed and adopted with the department managers. That's been done. November 17th, which is before the council meeting on the next week, we provide a draft financial plan for council to review and have an opportunity to review it and any questions. And then we'd have a budgeting workshop with all parties involved to work through it, and be like maybe block out 3-4 hours, sit down as a group, go through line by line to make sure we're all on the same page as to what the budget should be looking like for the next year.
So if I could just jump in there. So how traditionally this is dealt with is it's sort of an information dump for council. So the first meeting is where each normally department, so say Public Works, will come and present what their budget proposals are to council. It's usually driven by some sort of iteration of our risk matrix in terms of prioritization. And all the wish list items relative to risk probability are set out in terms of priority. So at the end of that, council has a huge list, typically associated with some 20% increase in taxation. So things then in meeting number 2 have to come off the list to get it down to list that's is reflective of asset management, of operational requirements and so forth relative to other demands and in consideration of taxation.
Thank you very much for summarizing that. The rest of the calendar is an iterative process of refining, like Ross said, and the follow-up workshop with our finance committee, and then another detailed review of the financial plan in a workshop in December. Our goal is to have a final draft of the budget presented to council by January 9th, with adoption on January 23rd. We have a communication plan for public engagement. There is part of this process which has already been established from the previous year's budget planning. We have our budget at lionsgate.ca email address still working. So once the preliminary budget is available, and after staff, council, department head input, that would be available for the public to review and comment on, like we did last year. Again, the idea here is to get everything transparent, get as much feedback as possible from everybody involved in the process and the public, and then provide a final financial plan for adoption in January 2020. So the request here is, this is for information, but we are requesting that this makes sense to council as far as a timeline.
So if I could, yes, if council could formally adopt this working agenda, if I could add a couple of footnotes to Mr. Cherkoff's commentary. This is a big dump on Mr. Cherkoff's shoulders at the last minute to be able to deliver a budget in short order like this. It's surprising with that he's been able to achieve what he's been able to achieve so far. Normally, the budget process going forward would start somewhere in August, which would then allow for a more measured, slower approach to engage in this, such that when budget adoption came forward in early January, it wouldn't be feeling so rushed. It's important to start the year with a adopted budget, but the piece that's missing in this whole budget deliberation process that'll be proposed for council for 2025 budget year is a strategic planning process that will inform the budget. So you will have then a foundation on which to make budget decisions. It will be your strategic planning process will give effect to those budget implications. Through that strategic planning process, you're going to have to consider budget and make trade-offs in order to have a realistic strategic plan. So these two things will marry better. So Mr. Cherkoff's proposed super consolidated calendar is to it's a stepping stone to get us to a place where we are going to have a better and more integrated process that integrates strategic planning and budgeting. Two sides of the same coin, part of the fun.
Can you make some comments on the calendar?
Yeah.
November 17th is not a council meeting.
I may interrupt. The reason why I have that off date is to provide you the information in advance of the meeting, so that you have some time to review it prior to actually having the council discussion.
That would be the Friday or. That's Friday.
I'm just trying to get.
Yeah, that's when it would be provided.
Yeah.
So the
Plan provided to council.
Yes.
Remember, yeah, it's not what you actually said, but it reads, then November the 21st is a council meeting. So we're planning to have this workshop in place of the council meeting.
So that is a question I'm happy you brought up. In respect of the time with the council meeting and the anticipated timeline to do this, would it be more appropriate to fill up that entire day before the meeting? This is basically about 3 to 4 hours, or review it and then do it the next day on the 22nd. But that's kind of what we're looking for, is for buy-in and participation for a locked off section of time to just hammer down all the budgetary items.
That would be a long day.
It would be a long day, yes.
So they could. So normally, for large organizations, these are day-long sessions. People are absolutely run through the ringer. And in my experience, every iteration of dealing with
Sorry,
budget.
Ross, I think you missed my question. You got up. We understand it's a big session. The question is, are we really going to have it on the same day as a council meeting?
That's where I was going.
Okay,
So where I was going with it, it's always there's no perfect solution. It's always problematic in terms of getting these things done. At the end of the day, the reality is council can only function with so many brain cells operating after, you know, hours and hours and hours of focus. So you got to ask yourself whether or not, despite how optimal it is, whether you can actually sustain concentration and so forth for that length of time. And if it isn't going to work for you, then we're going to have to adjust.
so how many hours did you think the workshop would take?
So,
I can just say that after spending 8 or 9 hours at work, sitting through a council meeting, no, I'm not. No, I'm out. Sorry, not gonna work for me.
Would we be better off doing this workshop on a weekend?
I guess one thing, I'm just looking at the dates here. So if I get you the draft financial plan for November 17th, I mean, that's running into the weekend before the next council meeting. We push it to the next weekend, it's already pushing us back. Or also I double that up with the finance committee meeting on the November 30th. Which date is the 30th? There's the calendar in front of me. Thursday. That. Whoa.
Paired with the finance committee meeting?
yeah. Yeah.
So
I prefer a weekday, not a weekend.
Could we go with Tuesday, the council meeting on the Tuesday and maybe the review on the Thursday? 23rd, would that work?
Can I make a suggestion as you're deliberating this?
Yes.
Because it's so compressed. It's going to be, I think it'd be wise for large blocks of information to go out to council so that council has a weekend to pour over it. The second thing is I would suggest that if you have questions through any of this process, you try to limit them at the meetings and ask them to staff before the meetings. If they are questions that all of council would benefit from, of course, and ask them at the meetings. But if it's simply a one-on-one question, ask them before the meetings to save time. What was the other one?
Can we move the finance committee dump of information earlier so that they can provide us with some recommendations?
I can do that. I will pull the finance committee. I mean, I was hoping to incorporate any preliminary comments from council in the presentation of the finance committee to reduce some of the back and forth there. But in the interest of time and respecting your time, maybe, so if we have the workshop on the 23rd on the Thursday, and then I move the finance committee portion to either the Monday or the Tuesday morning, if that's okay with the advisory members and the two council members on the finance committee, that could work. I guess it's hard to kind of do this on the fly. I would suggest that I'd send an email just to request confirmation of availability, for these dates. I understand everybody's got commitments, and I don't want to overly burden anybody here.
Hey,
Okay,
Joe, can I ask you a question here?
Go ahead, Councilor Ritter.
The communication plan below the table there. So are you looking for public engagement prior to the December 19th, or are you planning something on December 19th? I mean, I just am observing that December 19th is not the best time, given that Christmas is coming and we're moving into that season. That may not be the best time to engage the public for comment. I'm not quite clear.
I can see there being very low buy-in to that date.
So it's not anticipated to have like a town hall meeting on that date. The idea is that after we've had our workshops and review by the finance committee leading up to the 19th, and we've got a relatively solid budget in advance of the final draft in January 9th. We said public provide information to the public for comment. And if council would like to hold a town hall meeting at some point, either end of December, early January in advance of the final draft, that's great. But we also have a mechanism for public comments with the budget email. The only part was just to give the public the data so that they can review it and then have an opportunity to review.
So the idea
leisure.
that this would be provided to the public by the 19th.
Yes.
On the website.
Yes,
Okay.
after we've all had a chance. to
And then they've
review
got
it.
until.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Going for win.
Okay, do you want to just confirm some dates on maybe by email, because we're getting bogged down on this one topic here. I think just keep things moving forward.
I will send an email request with all involved in the process, but they're by states.
All right.
Just one comment on that, on the communications plan, to expect people to give any responses between the 19th and the end of the year. You're not going to get any responses. It's got to go out into January.
Well, so I'm hoping if there anything does come in, it would come in before January 9th, which is when the final draft is presented. Commentary in the last budgetary process, we only had 3 emails. I'm hoping that there'd be more public engagement if we give them the information in advance in time to.
Yeah, I'm suggesting you give that over Christmas, you're not going to get what you want. So I'm going to give these some time.
I would have to agree with Joe, though. Traditionally, I recall there'd be very little interest.
So,
Yeah,
so at the end of the day, there's 2 things that are missing from this that you can expect for next year. Normally, there's a resolution from council to direct staff to what it wants to see. For instance, you could say, we want a 0% budget, et cetera, et cetera. That's not happened this year because of time. But next year, that request at council with regard to budget direction will happen. The second piece I want to comment on is with regard to these dates. It's not a perfect process. If we want to get a budget dealt with early in January, we're going to have to make compromises. At the end of the day, the decision is council's with regard to what it wants to see with respect to the council calendar. And so council as a whole needs to provide direction to Mr. Chertoff with regard to key milestones. He will deliver that.
Not state an observation. I think it's more important to get it right, to get it done early. Any time in January will be considerably earlier than tradition has been in this village, and well in advance of any legislative requirements.
Yes.
So if we take a few more weeks and get it right, I would rather see that than trying to meet a date of early January just because you want to meet a date.
So as I say, if council could provide confirmation as to what it would like to see as a budget calendar when these dates come out, staff will facilitate that.
Yeah, could I say that given the compressed budget schedule we had already in this year and the that did not facilitate for the opportunity of public engagement, I would also like to see us provide a little bit of a longer timeline so that the public can engage this time around.
Okay, so you'll send out those dates for confirmation.
Yeah, just if I could encourage that whatever data we have that can go to the public would go out as early as possible. And if that's December the 19th, that's fine. And then there would be a reminder first thing in January, and with adequate time to respond. But some people will deal with it immediately upon receipt. Others will put it aside and may deal with it next time, when they're reminded about it. But I think it's would be really helpful for us to move along in this process.
How long was it, did the public have to review it when we last put it out there? We got 3 responses.
That was, well, we went through 5 iterations of the budget, special meetings and council meetings. It was 3 weeks.
So they had it for the 3 weeks and we got 3 responses. Okay, so you know what, I'm commending you for putting this forward and hopefully we can achieve this and get things moving and have a budget earlier in the year. So good job. Okay, next item, Mr. Cherkoff.
When I have on,
We got financial officer budget to actual, page 19.
Yeah.
And again, in the spirit of time, maybe.
I'm sorry, was there a motion then to accept this in principle or am I a different?
No,
place?
we're putting out new revisions.
Oh, yes. Okay, perfect.
Okay, item 10A2, budget to actual and in the spirit of time, because we will run out of time this evening. Maybe we can limit our questions, and if we have expensive questions for Mr. Cherkoff, we can contact him in the sidebar through our CAO.
I did provide for a very detailed package. Again, if there are any questions specifically that you've had from reviewing that material, I'm happy to address it now. Otherwise, it's in front of us is just.
Okay, why don't we go around the room and Councilor Cunliffe, any questions?
I'm good to receive this now. Thank you, John.
Councilor Broughton?
Just had a couple of quick questions, I think. Page 31. We've got a donation of $50,000. And in 2023, I'm not aware of what that is.
Okay, sorry, I don't have the page numbers.
Sorry, it's on general fund / parks.
Parks, okay, yeah. So parks was, there was for a grant that we're hoping to get. But wasn't.
No, this is $50,000 solicited to do with the native plant garden. It's wrong. Whatever it is, it's not correct.
Donations.
Okay, well, that's fine. It's not a quick answer, so it's. Let's leave it. And if you could respond, that'd be great.
I think
It's something to do with the native plant garden.
Native Plant Park, somebody very generously
I think that's a decimal area. Should it
be a decimal error? Would it be 5,000 or
Yeah,
500?
5,000.
Be several decimals.
So we had $5,000 donated in
I think it's more
2022.
likely 500.
The 2023 budget would have been just carried forward for the same. So
Okay.
that's definitely just a
If we could
transfer.
look at that anyway, that would be great.
Yeah.
Over the page, we've got boat space rentals. I just wanted to make a mention that it would be anticipated that there will be more boat spaces at the beach park as a result of the renovation and revitalization, and also that they will be probably nicer as well, and we may be able to generate a little bit more income on that one.
That would be
That's under accompanying notes, fees and rentals, boat space rentals.
that number 1. Okay.
Okay. Just a comment about community facility maintenance. I'm not sure how the washrooms get opened and closed at the beach park, but I'm hoping with the new, when the new building is completed, we should be in discussion regarding how to best deal with maybe opening electronically or electrically and then having somebody there to close, but I'm not sure how that happens now. I think it's literally.
Councilor Broughton, I'm just gonna step in one more time, and this is my conversation with the CAO is if we can have some of these diving into the details offline, maybe contact the CF or the controller. CAO.
Thank you.
That'll move our meetings along.
Okay, I'll stand down at that point. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Abbott.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay, would you mind if you have questions, would you mind contacting the CAO tomorrow?
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I would rather talk through these because it makes everyone understand more about it than me sitting with Joe. And maybe it's something, someone else brings up something that Michael did. That's a good point. I would rather we spoke through.
So this would be a committee of the whole, I think it was a suggestion, or have a specific day or, here's 3 hours with Mr. Cherkoff. And it's optional if counselors have questions, want to listen in on it, they sit in on those detailed questions. Then when we come to council, we move through the agenda and the items and keep the pace going. But would you like to comment on that?
I would agree entirely. I mean, the purpose of council primarily is just to confirm the resolutions that were provided through committee of the whole, which has not happened. So you're doing at council a combination of committee of the whole and agenda work. So you just don't have enough time set aside for council meetings to do it all. So, if there's a desire to sort of go into the details of budget to actuals, maybe we need to have a different sort of format. Normally, these are in the form of finance committees that are comprised of some or all of council. But it can be, as you say, to staff workshops where once a month, Mr. Cherkoff does a lunch and learn or whatever the situation is and spends 2 hours or whatever the time is to ensure that there's sufficient ability to do a deep dive into the matters that Councillor Abbott is referring to, because points well taken.
And to be fair, some of these questions were the same questions that I brought up last time we had it, and it's still the same. They haven't been changed. So yeah, I think we can have another meeting, a different kind of format, where we can go through this, and someone doesn't want to attend, they don't have to. But we can go through and get this thing cleaned up.
I think that'd be great, and maybe as CEO, Mr. Blackwell can arrange that along with Mr. Cherkoff, make that time available. We can do deep dives, and it can be optional for councillors, and perhaps the finance committee can be invited as well. And we're prepared for the council meeting, and we get rid of a lot of, as you mentioned, Councillor Abbott, there's some redundancies here, which you brought up last meeting. Clear those up and move forward. Did you have maybe some high level questions for this meeting? Because obviously you're looking forward to asking more questions, so don't want to limit that. But in the spirit of moving this forward, because I think we will run out of time later on this evening.
Yeah, well, one high level question that helps to understand when you got year to date as of when.
September 30th.
So we should be looking at about 20% left, the opposite left over. Okay. Yeah, was the one on, it was one I wanted to bring up, that one on the $50,000 was one of them.
Perhaps we can even make time available later this week for any of the councillors that are interested in diving in deeper.
I'm happy to sit down, have my laptop out, make edits on the fly, or have access to our accounting system and look up any questions. Also address any sort of presentation or informational issues. I want to deliver the best effective presentation to council so they can process the information.
Okay. Councillor Abbott, anything further on the high level before we move on?
There was just one.
Okay, while you're looking for that, Councillor Reuter, any questions?
Yeah, I got to say, I'm again uncomfortable with the compressed time schedule. Let me just jump to one here specifically under grants on page 32. Bear Smart $3,455 in grants in 2022. Curly Stewart 2023 $1,000 in grants. This just doesn't strike me as real.
We were looking at that, so it is definitely an expense. It's maybe a misnomer. So how it's been coded within our accounting system for ages is that it was set up as a grant expense category. So that's where it's any sort of funds that have been expended that have been shown on our financial statements. Our team has been discussing this as to, yeah, it's not a council approved grant per se, it's a community funded initiative. So we are paying for certain items, and it was information presentations to the school, what have you in the past, but it's not a grant. So it would be a reclassification in our presentation, in our financial statement reporting from grants to another expense line item, community funded initiatives or what have you, but you're correct, it's not a grant.
Is it
Okay.
expenses to support?
No, it's not. Okay, so we brought this one up last time. $3,455 never happened with Basemart. Basemart initiatives for education and stuff on less than $500 a year. You do two, and they're about $270 a pop, depending how many hours it took. So it's out by orders of magnitude. I think what that is bylaw enforcement, which was not a Basemart initiative. I'll say it again. It was a staff request, a staff function that bylaw asked and arranged. It happened to use the same person that we used for those educational events. You find the educational event part is probably a few $100. And if you spend $3,000 on additional bylaw enforcement, I'd be surprised. But I'm not aware of that much bylaw enforcement. We were never told.
So with regards to 2022 of that $3,455 that was put in that line item, which is not a grant per se, it's a community supported initiative. So we paid West Van for waste bin decals, $642. Seratus did school presentations for $152. And the rest was billing from Seratus Wildlife on various initiatives, having a booth at various events and what have you.
Maybe you can just reclassify it, Smart initiatives or something.
Yeah, it definitely is going to go to a different.
Hang on, guys. They are not Basemart initiatives. $152 is decals, bins, bylaw enforcement is not a Basemart initiative, even if they use Seratus Wildlife Services to support it. They're not Basemart initiatives. Basemart never even asked for it. We found out about it afterwards. It was a staff function, staff initiative.
Okay.
I keep saying this, so it's
Joe,
nothing to do with Basemart. Hundreds of
Joe,
dollars is all Basemart spends a year, not thousands.
So Joe, I would suggest that, yeah, that get cleaned up and that be located over to bylaw or some other area, because it creates a misimpression. Can I also ask on page 25, I'm just wondering if, I mean, of course, we have a copy of this enclosed, but I'm noticing a variance that I just can't make sense of. For example, under conferences and conventions, LGMA, the figure that we see under 2023 year to date is significantly different than the one we see in the closed package. I can't make head or tail of that.
Can I follow up with you with that afterwards? I don't have both packages in front of me. I was trying to save some paper, but
Sure.
I can definitely.
Sure. And one final question, right above that is the by-election. Now, I recall being told that the by-election would cost about $7,000. I think you were around at the time, but in fact, is it correct here that it cost us over $22,000? Is that right?
That was brought up in council meeting it was before the summer break when the question was posed about what it would actually cost us. And I brought up the number about $22,000, and I was basically with.
Was that big consultant cost?
That was the consultant and time, yes.
Was that staff time as well into that?
A certain amount of staff time was incorporated into that. And in the council package, I believe I put some very specific detail on who was paid and how much.
These were private contractors. I just want to point out that that cost is much closer to what was originally projected way back when, and I pointed that out at the time. But it was maintained that it would cost us very little, but it did in fact end up costing us a lot. There, I saw the breakdown in the closed, and that did not include much significant staff time of our staff. Those are private contractors, it seems to me.
Okay, and again, Mr. Cherkoff will be available through the CAO. So, Mr. Cherkoff, can you move on, please? Next item.
Wait, just one other general comment. There's a whole bunch of places where we've got things labeled as CapEx still that aren't CapEx. When we go through the CapEx, it's quite clear. It's a capital cost and it's not a maintenance item.
Oh, absolutely. And I get just for context, how and this goes into a whole bunch of other stuff about chart of accounts and accounting in general. How things are currently recorded. Whenever we get an invoice, it goes to a numbered account, public works, sewer, solid waste, what have you. And it just sits there until the end of the year when an adjusting entry is moved to either an expense account or it's capitalized if it's an actual capital item. So it's also just what I'm reporting to you here is what's been recorded in system. But there are a number of year-end journal entries that allocate actual capital expenditures to a capital expenditure account and then to operational accounts. I'd love to clean that up, but that's on another thing, the list of things we're trying to clean up.
Okay, I'll repeat, Mr. Cherkoff will be available again as a sidebar through our CAO. So thank you. Cherkoff, next item, please. And three.
Yeah, purchasing policy?
Yes.
The last time we had a purchasing policy update was in 2022 or 2002. There was a draft proposed in 2016. I don't believe it was ever went through, but I saw the drafts. So what we're proposing here is an update to the original policy. It includes a general purchasing policy and a credit card policy. So in our request for decision, we've included a discussion about why we're doing this, and that's for legal compliance, efficiency and streamlining, transparency, financial responsibility, vendor relations, and standardization. We're also including a social, economic, environmental lens. This purchasing policy draft has been reviewed by council. This is version 7, I believe. So there was a number of earlier versions that were reviewed by members of council, by Deanna Campbell, our advisor, and then our CEO had put his lens on it and I think made it a little more of a streamlined, right-sized version for the Village of Lions Bay, which incorporates the requests that council had previously incorporated and the comments from our provincial advisor. So the request is that this be adopted as our purchasing policy, and then together with it, as an addendum, the credit card policy, which outlines the requirements for using an issued corporate card and the reporting requirements to the finance department for approval and basically outlining what it can be used for.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion. We'll start with Councillor Abbott.
Okay,
Councillor Brunson, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Reuter.
so on page numbers of the computer, in the original minutes. Page 2, is it? I'll do this one. Section 15, written agreements. And then you've got A, B, C, D. Number B, it says for all tenders and awards greater than $100,000. Now, so but later in the DOs and the trade agreements and all those sections, the trigger seems to be $75,000 for various reasons, to have a further higher level of review or next level of DAO. But I think to be consistent through the document, if that was $75,000, it would line up with a lot of the other stuff that comes later. That's my one suggestion. I'm not sure why the number of 100 is picked there.
Mr. Cherkoff, any reason, or Mr. Rockwell?
So pulling these things out of the air makes it impossible for me to comment on. I'll have to look at it. If I don't know the extent to which this is my handiwork and how much of this is brought over from previous versions, but I would confess here and now that this is stolen from the municipality. So to the extent that it may be flawed, I blame them, not me. Just kidding. I'm sure there's a reason for that discrepancy. I can't answer it on the fly, But we can certainly look into the mechanics of that and report back.
One document would read a whole lot together, better together if they were both 75.
Sure, makes sense.
On 18, section 18. Where it describes RFQ, it says verbal quotations do whenever possible for individual amounts, and these are small amounts, it's the first threshold, $1,500 to $10,000. Why wouldn't those just be informal email quotations? I mean, $10,000 is a lot of money based on a verbal discussion you have no record of it at all. I think a PD's version had that as an informal email quote or some form of quote. We had informal quotations. That would be my suggestion. 18A.
So these things are fluid, and it's to an extent fluid, and they are reflective of sort of the purchasing program, and in my experience anyway, of local government. So verbal agreements of $10,000 are common. If you're dealing with heavy equipment repair, you have a tandem axle dump truck or whatever, it's easy, and you have one supplier that does the heavy duty mechanics on it. You get a verbal quote that it's going to be $8,000 for a new hydraulic pump, etc. That's where that number comes from. It's typically associated with those kinds of purchases. It's not sort of generalized shopping.
Okay, but the heading here is request for quotations. And then it says RFQs, invitation, then it says up to 10 verbal quotation. If you're sending out a request for a quotation, surely you can just get a written quote or an email or something to that.
Can do, it takes more time is all. But we can do any of those things. It's the degree of vigor that council would like to see with respect to this, relative to the efficiency.
I would propose an email is a really simple thing to do these days. A little bit of vigor, not much.
Okay.
The next one is a question I don't understand the term. Under 18B, the first bullet, it says, so this is written quotations for amounts over 10,000. It says rotate suppliers invited to quote or post on the village website. What do we mean by rotate?
To solicit new bidders, so we're not always kind of stuck with the same, we're using the same vendors as an invitation.
Broaden the
pool. Yeah, the pool, yeah.
Okay. It just makes, I don't understand it, but yes, that's what it means, it's fine. No objection to that. All right, so this is probably something we've got. So when we have various department directors in here. We don't have department directors, so I suggest we need to find those terms and replace them. We also don't, so this is on 22C. We also don't have our tenders submitted to the municipal board. We don't, because that would be that building next door where people play basketball. It should be the village office.
Same thing, because it's a municipality. The village offices is the municipal hall. But
I understand the terms used in other municipalities. In our municipalities, we call it the village office. If you told someone to deliver something to the municipal hall, they would leave it outside that door by the basketball court. I can assure you. Guaranteed.
From submitting if they did that.
Guaranteed. I just suggest you change that to village office.
Sure.
Selection.
Yes.
I was
number one.
On page, well, not page, sorry, we'll just go with the numbers. Item 23, receiving of bids. I know in our industry, we've done away with receiving bids via fax. We don't allow that anymore. No one does it anymore. I don't even know if anyone has a fax machine that operates these days. So I suggest we change that. Electronic bidding, it's not fax. Do we even have a fax machine?
Enough said. I can't believe that's in there.
Okay.
Which one, whereabouts is it?
Section 22E. 23E.
23E. Cute.
Have you blacklined these changes? Maybe what you do is just send the document to these guys during the day and that'll save them having a, they might miss some.
Well, we tried this one before. What I do is I just put comments in a PDF and then I send them to you. You can read the comments. Won't take much longer. The purchase card, I understand from the later document, that these are obviously credit cards issued to certain people. All right. On the appendix, the spending commitments, the $1,500 to $10,000, it says on a purchase card. But if you go back to the previous page, on section on section 13, it says purchase cards up to $1,500. So those contradict each other. Section 13, in the earlier part of the document, it purchase cards up to $1,500, and there it says up to 15 to 10,000. I think that purchase card part was just copied from the line above. It shouldn't be.
Goes right up to 25,000.
Yeah, I think the word purchase card or only applies to up to $1,500. Certainly, that's where the other document reads. This table's consistent. Yeah. Same, yeah, Mike was right. Same thing happens on the next one. 35,000
should be altered.
We have another term in here that's used quite often, manager of operations. We don't have one of those, assuming it's meant to be the workshops manager. That's,
Yes.
That's on appendix B. It might be in other places as well. Okay, that's what my comments on that particular document.
Councillor Ryder, any comments?
Yeah, I've just got not nearly as in depth as Neville. I'm just curious why we have a mention in multiple areas of financial officer, FO, and not CFO.
It's my understanding, my position is financial officer. It's but chief financial officer would oversee other financial officers.
So in previous iterations, was
Any comments?
that CFO or was it FO in previous iterations?
I believe it was a CFO, but it should be financial officer, and we'll make sure that's consistent throughout any policy that comes forward.
Okay, and just I'm not quite clear as of page 67. When I'm looking at this, I just see a bunch of red line strikeout. What does that tell me? That is something that has been edited out, or has this been added in?
Well, that's edited out. I'm not sure. I think when this is presented for the council package, when we
distribute this in advance from now on.
Through the chair, the red line was provided to us later. I think, was it today or yesterday? The version without the red lines was provided.
So for clarity, the version that's in the agenda package that went public, and that's in the agenda package, and this is a question for Joe. So, excuse me. So the red line cross out means what? It's been added in and then removed, or what does it mean?
I completely agree with you. It's difficult to follow. It was not intended to go out with the track changes version for the items presented to council. It was just to show to keep track of what had been edited. And so I believe a cleaned up version had been sent out. But yeah, that was a mistake.
I think the question though is that was that put in and then taken out? And I think my understanding is that perhaps it was copied. There was this format was copied and then edited. Would be my take on it.
So just I'm still confused. So for members of the public who are looking at this, the what starts at page 67 and rolls down for a number of pages, are these items now that have been removed or added and removed? I mean, what are we looking at? Page 68, 67, 69.
15 pages of strikeouts. They're all irrelevant. I think.
So all of this has
Started
been
off as a
removed.
purchasing policy and got changed to the purchase card policy, and all that got struck out.
So the answer is it's all been struck. Is that correct?
That's right.
On that particular policy, the first sentence reads, the purpose of the general purchasing policy. That should be the purpose of the purchase card policy. And that gives you the insight as to why you got 15 pages of strikeout.
Okay, folks, I'll just let you know, it's coming up to 9 o'clock, meeting time at 10:30, we extended at 10 o'clock. 10:30 is final call. So we have taken a recess on our closed meeting. We want to pick that up later. We've got a number of items. I suggest that we take this offline. If you've got questions for Mr. Cherkoff or the CAO. Through the CAO, all of this.
We have a motion and seconded motion, I
Okay.
believe, and.
Call the question.
I think any concerns have been picked up by the financial officer and will be incorporated. Or do we
Call the question. All in favor?
Could we, move forward with the motion with the understanding that those concerns will be addressed in the final draft?
I'm fine with that. All in favor?
Can we get it distributed to us first so we can see they got picked up?
I can send that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see a final draft of this before I vote to approve myself.
Okay, if the motion's on the table, I'll call the question. If you want to vote it down, that's fine. All in favor?
Can I make a friendly amendment to this motion?
Yes.
Can we just add to the motion that after distribution via email to confirm the changes have been captured? Good with that? Giving nods.
Could you please repeat the motion?
I have to go find the motion to repeat it.
By Friday. We will confirm by Friday, so it doesn't drag into days and days.
I'm sorry, so are we accepting it subject to?
Subject to
Review.
the review and an email confirmation.
Yeah.
Does that resolution make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Dragon.
With the amendment?
So moved.
Yes.
Opposed? Councilor Ryder, was that a yay or nay?
I'd like to hear from our corporate officer the language as
Okay,
to
we're
that
calling the
amendment.
question.
I have not heard the amendment clearly.
Yes.
Brock, repeat the amendment.
Thank you. So the resolution, as I read it, is that the council receive the October 25th, 2023 draft general purchasing policy and purchase card policy, and that revisions be forwarded to council for final review
By Friday.
by Friday.
No later than Friday, kids. Okay, all in favor, once again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, opposed? Mine was yes, opposed? Okay, Councilor Ryder is.
He's in favor.
for.
He said yes. He said yes.
Okay, I didn't.
Shall I say it again? Yes. Where am I coming
Thank you.
through here? Am I connecting? Very
Thank
good.
you.
My pleasure.
Okay, next item. Mr. Cherkoff.
Travel expense policy?
I was just gonna maybe suggest that if this isn't, we are fairly through our agenda. Is this a sense of urgency or can this be brought back? Is there some things on this agenda that we can defer to another meeting?
CAO. Mr. Blackwell.
Do any of us plan on traveling anytime soon?
Well, staff could be. This is why it's before council, is because there are problems right now with having no travel policy.
Okay.
So, but there are matters like tree application permits that I think folks are gonna want to see dealt with sooner than later, et cetera.
Okay. Mr. Cherkoff, item number 10A4.
So the request for decision is the recommendation is that we adopt the staff travel expense policy. And we outline the need for policy, it's just best practice.
Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion. Anything further, Mr. Chirkoff?
Other than, we've, adopted a more comprehensive, reporting format, and it's consistent across departments for submitting receipts. That's it.
Okay, questions? Discussion.
Question?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, Councillor Bowden.
Yeah.
Councillor Abbott.
Keep going this week. I'm good with it.
Councillor Ryder.
Yeah, again, I would prefer to receive this, just got these. There's a number of policies that are being thrown at us here. The travel expense, the corporate
Thursday.
communications, policies, et cetera. I would have a number of questions. And in the interest of moving this forward, this entire meeting, I would like to receive the 10A4, 10A5, so that we can get the meeting moved forward. I think there's.
Okay, questions on the table, motions on the table. My feeling is that our staff has drafted this, and I'll go with the recommendation. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carried. Okay.
Can I ask if Councillor Ryder would like to be recorded as a case?
Councillor Ryder, would you like to be recorded as opposed?
No, that's fine. Not a problem.
Okay. Mr. Chirkoff, item number 5.
That's me.
Or sorry, that's
Councillor Roy just suggested that we move these to another time when this notice, because he's on time critical. Jamie seemed to imply the same thing. I put forward a motion that we move item 5 and 6 to another time if they're not critical. But what Marcus was saying.
Okay, that's a motion on the table. A second.
You don't need a motion for that. You could just propose it to council.
Okay, I'm just proposing it.
It has to be unanimous.
If we get a chance to do it by the end, let's do it at the end. But if we don't, let's move it to another meeting. Get to.
You can table.
Sorry, Neville, what are you
Sorry, 5
proposing?
and 6?
We jump where now?
We skipped by, I think you said 4, 5, and 6. We already voted on 4. I'm in agreement on 5 and 6. Move them to another time, or if we can get to them at the end.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll just, before I make that decision, on my behalf, I would ask our CAO to give us a bit of explanation on the corporate communications policy. How much time you put into that and whether this is important to us.
Well, that's all subjective. I mean, what I've heard around the council table, and this is direction from council, is that we need a corporate communication policy because the communication approach is inconsistent and it leads to problems. So this is not a problem until the next time it becomes a problem. So either we can get ahead of it before the next glitch, or you can wait and deal with it. Nope, there's no glitch. With regard to the council, this item number 6, this is a proposed adjustment to the council meeting calendar for the rest of the year. If you wait very much longer, it will be the rest of the year, and it won't matter. The key takeaways in here are bumping the closed session a little bit earlier, so you can deal with some of the more lengthy items that are going to be in front of the council. There'll be a new agenda, council calendar proposed for 2024. That's not what this is. So it's totally up to council how you wish to.
Okay. How important is the corporate communications policy? Will it allow the mayor to make suggestions to the weekly village updates? And is it going to clean up any of the dysfunction that currently is within the council?
That's a tricky question for me to answer. I prefer not to have to go down that road. I would say that the purpose of this communication policy is to standardize the consistency of our communications through all of the formats, whether it be our web, village update. So the website village update is a separate policy that's going to be attached, that is attached to this. but they're not integrated. It'll deal with all forms, social media, etc. So as I say, is it time sensitive? Not necessarily any more than anything else that is, that pops up from time to time.
So if we deferred that one till the next meeting,
Can do.
we're not closing any parking lots anytime soon, so I don't
Not
think
that
we
I'm
have
aware.
to be concerned about the media.
Councilor Brown.
I think it'll take quite a bit of time to work through this, and I think we have other items. I think we can push it to the end of the agenda and see if there is time. But I think there are some other items.
Okay.
Very time
Defer to the end of the
I
agenda.
think it's very important, but I think we need to not spend 20 minutes talking about
Okay.
whether we're going to talk about it.
I'm okay with deferring it to the end of the agenda.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So that's 5 and 6.
How about we defer it to the end of the agenda, but prior to any of the on-table items?
Not in favor of that.
The way I see this playing out is getting deferred to the next meeting. Realistically, and it's 9 o'clock already, and we are spending an extraordinary amount of time discussing whether something can wait or not.
Okay.
I would just defer it to the end of the meeting.
To the end of the
We'll put it to the end of the agenda. Everyone fine with that?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 6, the calendar. Did you want to? You're saying we need to approve that?
Well, again,
It's the end of the agenda. We're not going to get to this before 10:30.
yeah, that's fine. Move to the end of the agenda. We will deal with what we have to deal with in terms of what time is available to us.
Okay. And other councillors, you comfortable with moving that calendar to the end, or would you like to pass a motion right now to move on that?
I think we should move it to the end. There's lots of discussion going to happen on that.
Be some discussion, yes.
Okay,
I'd like to see it move to the end, but prior to the on-table items. Can we do that so that we can have a chance of getting to this? I mean, staff have put in significant time on this, so if we do have time, we should probably get on this first.
I think we've dealt with that idea.
I haven't heard an answer yet.
I'm not in favor of that. Move it to the end of the agenda.
Rest of council?
I'm fine with that. Moving it to the end.
Okay.
Okay, go. Lines Bay Connector.
Item number 7.
Okay, item number 7, Lions Bay Connector, for council direction, and Mr. Burr, please give us some explanation on this. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm cognizant that time is tight. Unfortunately, this is something that has to be decided tonight. Because Transit is waiting for the answer on Friday. There's 2 aspects to something that council has to decide. Are we going to continue with the connector project? And do you want to do the wayfinding? The report's in front of you. I provided quite a bit of collateral to remind you what the connector project is. There's also a very sort of rough start to what a wayfinding project might look like. How we divvied it up is they asked me to keep $15,000 back from the allocated funds for 2023 and apply that to the new project. They have their internal politics too. So that's where we stand. I'll remind council, I've advised you of this several times, that we were allocated $156,000 this year by TransLink. They were willing for us to apply it to top up funding for the already funded connector project. I'll also remind you that less formally, they will lend us a project manager to deliver the project if council elects to go with it. We've already spent $11,800 on design, which line is in front of you. If we elect to proceed, all well and good. If we elect not to, we have to return 75% of the money that's been already spent, which is not a huge amount of money. I'm not here to tell you whether this is a good idea or not. That's been debated long and hard, but the decision has to be made tonight.
Okay, can we ask some questions here just before we all motion? Councillor Brown.
Well, I'm concerned that there's a great deal of confusion about what the Lions Bay Connector project is. And there's a lot of misunderstanding that it in some way that it actively connects Kelvin Grove to Lions Bay Avenue. And actually the description is that it connects the bus stop at underpass to the Lions Bay Beach. And it's basically a series of sidewalks and so on. I think it's very poorly understood. And I think it requires a huge amount more input and understanding. That being said, I think my understanding is that TransLink is willing to work with us.
Yeah, I should probably have said that the current Connect project is laid out here to the nearest.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how we came up with the numbers. That's not to say that it cannot be rescoped.
Right, okay. So
again, that takes time. They will lend us a project manager whose patience might be tried by vacillation and reinventing the wheel. But let's test the patience if council has an appetite for that.
Can I just add, I had some discussion with the TransLink as I sit on the board and I threw this out there. I said, if there's some components that we'd like to adjust or rescope, was that an issue? Were they going to withdraw these funds? They said, not at all. We'd be happy to work with you to readjust. So my feeling is I'm very much for this connector project, connecting Kelvin Grove to Lions Bay, more effectively helping, fix that trail, whether it's wide enough to drive something down, whatever it may be. I'm not as excited about a sidewalk all the way down to the bottom of Lions Bay because that's just my feeling, but I think we need to go to the community and just sort of flesh this out because most people, myself included, didn't understand or don't understand this. But I think that there's a tremendous grant that's sitting there, and if we can rescope it, and perhaps we have a town hall meeting and we consult the residents, especially those within the Kelvin Grove area. I'm very much for that. So whatever we can do to move this forward, that's my feeling. Councillor Cunliffe.
Yeah, I've always been in favor of it, and if there is opportunity to tweak. And I was under the impression that we needed to, if we didn't give you an answer tonight, that the funds died, we're done. So if there's
no, let me be absolutely clear there. This project that's here on paper that was funded, applied for and funded, that can be rescoped.
It can be, and that gives
satisfied with
us,
the new bus stop.
it gives us the opportunity to go to the residents, which is something that we have never.
That was
properly
lacking
done.
before, yeah. So
Yeah.
there was consultation, but very limited.
Very, very limited.
So that will then take quite a bit of staff time because of course the TransLink project manager, hired gun, won't know what's involved there. But
Councillor Abbott,
just the motivation for the descoping, we have to do that. Some quick numbers, we've got a total budget of 391,000. We've got an estimate in here in last year's dollars at 474,000. So there's your first bus. You've got an $83,000 shortfall. You've got to add something on for last year, so escalate of 5%, another 24 grand. We've got to still design this thing because this, whether we redesign it, it's different, but this isn't a complete design, this is a conceptual design. So that's going to cost us another 15, 20. So we've got a shortfall of 150 there. If you throw in your wayfinding 15K, and then you remember we're also paying 25% of this, which is another 118,000. When we put this out to residents, they need to understand how much of resident money we're spending. We're spending between 250 and maybe even as much as 300K on this project. That's the way people need to look at it. Then is it worth it? And I think that's a pretty, in my case, a pretty convincing argument that it has to be descoped. And the zigzaggy path through the forest is going to clear 20 meters right away of trees, and all the other things in that design is the obvious part to me that doesn't make sense. The merits of the sideworks versus the bus stop, we can look at that and get some resident input. and widening the on-ramp section and moving that Jersey barrier over so you can safely walk behind the Jersey barrier. That's a no-brainer, and that's a small part of it. So yeah, I think de-scoping significantly as a minimum. But I've also been against this project all along. So I will also, if others people want to stop throwing good money after bad, give up on spending 8K and not start chasing tax money, I would quite happily be okay with that as well, because I think the whole idea was ill-conceived.
Okay, Councillor Reuter.
Yeah, just for clarification, we've spent 11,000 so far, but are only on the hook for 75% of that if we decide to bail on this?
We only pay back 75. We already paid 25 out of our own pocket.
Yeah, but we have to return 75%.
So if we walk away from this, how much will it cost us gross?
$11,800.
Yeah. So this is not that difficult for me. You know, given the cost inflations, I calculated it out as costing us 300 plus. And that's a very significant fee, amount of money. If we're going to throw significant money after and versus, you know, giving back 12,000, I'd be ready to walk away from this one at this point.
Okay, my feeling is that we should go back to the residents. I hate to see us give up a grant if there's something that can be such as a bus stop. I think the key item with this was a covered bus stop for people. Secondly, I guess my comment is this zigzagging through these lots here seems to me that potentially sterilizes any of those assets for future. Where I think people are just going to walk down the road or to the side of the road the way it is now. But I think it requires further consultation. Councilor Brown.
Could I just point out that TransLink, when I think of TransLink, I normally think of buses, but their mandate is much broader in terms of creating walkability, not just the walkability to the bus stop, but walkability within the community. Also, they have a bus mandate or a bike mandate, and just a communication. Physical communication mandate. So I would really like us to see what people are looking to have happen, and look at best value. If we need some kind of a bus stop right now, we've got people standing on a bridge, so we need something happening there. In addition to that, if we can increase the connectivity between Brunswick, or pardon me, Kelvin Grove and Lions Bay Avenue, I think that would be a tremendous asset. And I just think we need to look at different possibilities. I know that John Dudley, I think, met with, I'm not sure who he met with, but was looking at from a trails perspective, effective communication between Lions Bay Avenue and Kelvin Grove. And he may have some very efficient ideas, which, by giving, somebody with a lot of experience and $15,000 might be able to put an incredible project in place.
Yeah.
So we might have, $50,000 to $100,000 of really good value projects, which we would pay $25,000 for. We'd pay 25% of. So I'd like to take advantage of the possibilities, but I'm not looking to spend, 400,000 because that's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at pulling back and looking at best value. So I would like us to pursue but seriously to de-scope this based on village.
It could be something to, and again, this is my conversation with TransLink, being with them on a regular basis, is we are flexible. Whatever will help your community, we'll entertain. So if they're willing to put up 75% and cost 25%, I think we ask the residents, what else could there be here? Somebody's throwing an idea that big dip on the connection right now is a little bit cumbersome. Maybe there's a type of a bridge that there's people that build bridges that are very attractive, and that's an idea. I don't know what it is, but or it might be somewhere else, might be on the other side of the highway or in a different area.
Okay, well, so
Does that help?
it does help. As far as Translink is concerned, they are waiting to hear from me if council would like to rescope. We don't actually have to do anything in that regard. So there's the only resolution I would like is direction to rescope the project. So that's all right. That's part A.
But after some public participation,
Of course, with it,
because we haven't done that.
it will be done properly.
Yeah.
So there will be several rounds of public consultation and laundry lists and wish lists and a scoring matrix and all the stuff that was missing the first time. So that we get an optimized delivery, because if it's something we want or need, like a covered bus shelter, council wants to pay 3/4 of it. And I think we should take advantage of that. On the other hand, do we need a gold-plated wine cellar? No.
No, do we need a bus shelter?
I want a sound barrier that you can walk on from Calvin Grove to Lions Bay.
Okay, we'll take you
On the other side of the
in the
highway.
public consultation piece.
Well,
So,
But there's ideas out there that.
Of course.
Might come forward.
Yeah,
Well-
just one other idea if we do that. What's not clear to me, and I poured over these drawings, is what the section that it refers to as native garden connector is supposed to be doing. It's not shown on these drawings.
I don't know.
What is the intention there? And I hope it is not to wipe out the native plant garden. There's a considerable amount of community
My understanding is that go
input
around
into that.
instead of going into the cul-de-sac.
But that
Actually go around. I know it's not.
doesn't show that in those drawings. And it's never been explained. So I'm just heads up, that's one thing that will be a question.
One of many things.
So Carl, can you put a motion forward just in terms of structure, and then we'll.
The motion should be something like direct staff to proceed with the Connect project rescoping with a significant public engagement. Then rediscuss with Translink to come up with the funded project.
Okay, do we have
And
mover on that?
And naturally, that would come back to council.
The recording.
Do we have a mover on that? Second,
Second.
okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye,
Reluctantly.
opposed?
Yeah, I would say.
Okay, thank you. So then the second part is,
Sorry, Councilor Ryder. Yay or nay?
again, yay.
Okay, thank you.
do we want to spend $15,000 on a wayfinding signage project? This is for pedestrian visitors and residents.
Would that be included in the project?
No, it's separate projects. They asked me to earmark 15,000 for a separate project,
Okay.
a new project. And when I mentioned that we'd had a shelved wayfinding project from way back, they said that's exactly what we.
I think one of the issues that we have right now is that in the summer, the bus is full on certain days of hikers and cliff jumpers. And so on. And I'm not sure that the goal, what we want is to make us a destination walking
People
area.
are not going to come here because there's wayfinding signage. That's going to show them where to go when they get here. They read about us on Instagram. The whole point, my desire for wayfinding signage is to get them off the streets and off Centennial Trail, the Pride Trail, get them to where they want to go quicker. Let alone engender some sort of sense of responsibility, less vandalism, less littering, less pooping in the woods, literally. So, yeah, I would seriously dispel the notion that people come here because there's signs. They're coming anyway. The signs try and somewhat guide their behavior to what we would like them to do, somewhat.
Yeah.
To the extent that people look at signs, which is not a great extent.
Well, they are always asking me which way to go there and here and where, so signage would be helpful.
Yeah, this is in village signage. I spend a lot of time directing people to the beach park.
Yeah.
Now, the cliff jumping, the answer is we don't know. That's the official answer.
Yeah.
But
What's our cost on this? What's our share?
Could we
25% of 15.
could we get some in?
25% of 15, so they will pay the 75%.
You know, I think it changes the kind of the flavor of the community. If we suddenly we have more signs. So I'm wondering if, I think it really is worthy of input.
Council Brown. Sorry, CEO, this just brought it to my attention, just so we're not speaking over each other, maybe through the chair. Thank you.
Pardon me. Okay. No, through the chair, that my concern is that signage, I think we need to confer with the community as to whether that's something that they want to see. I mean, I can sort of hear the arguments from some people. Will that change the village feel? To have a whole bunch of signs up, whereas we're more rural at this point.
Is this something that could be scoped slightly different as well and brought to the residents? Could it be one larger sign that's or something creative, or I don't know what it might be, but can the scoping change on this as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we take it to the can this be part of taking it to the residents?
I wouldn't dare do anything else. This is the higher level question is,
do we want to consider it?
do we want to consider it?
75% funding, 25%.
Is it something that council thinks Lions Bay should have? That's the question. The funding is excellent.
I would be for it, and definitely going to the public, and perhaps it's rescoping.
Yeah.
Because I've looked at these and probably have some different ideas, but I'd love to hear from the public. So I would be, so if the motion is to go after this grant as proposed. You want to put that motion?
Let me just remind myself.
Context.
Just two separate motions, right?
It's already done the first motion.
This is signage, okay.
Yes, they want us to apply by Friday. They gave me until Friday. Instead of or in addition to the connector project and delivered it in 2024. And as council will be cognizant of the community ramifications here. There will be people who feel that putting up welcoming signage is not what they want. Others who feel quite the opposite. So that's the decision in front of council. And the motion that results is direct staff to proceed with the wayfinding signage project. Again, properly
subject to community input.
Obviously, you would not do a community project without community input. That may be obvious to those of us around the table, but it's not obvious to everyone. So yes, most explicitly with community.
Okay, do we have a motion for that statement? Okay, second. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Okay, I'll second it. Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Yeah, I'm opposed, I think.
Okay, motion carried. Okay.
Can I ask if
Receive input, but I'm not.
Okay, either member wish to be recorded as opposed?
No, I don't need to be recorded. I didn't actually get to try and voice my opinions. I didn't get a chance to say what I thought.
We're not going to feel hard.
That's why I'm not voting.
There'll be consultation.
There will be consultation.
Okay.
People will like it.
Okay, next item.
Okay, well, this is the most critical report you're going to read all year. It's a pity that time is so constrained, so I'll keep it short. It's a mandatory report required by our utility license, which we have for two separate water plants. I'll just actually advise council that the data line to one of the water plants is currently down, as in literally on the ground. So we are manually running the plant by visiting it quite frequently, setting chlorine dose and switching plants on and off. However, this is for 2022, when we had the issues outlined in the report. This went back and forth to Vancouver Coastal Health 4 times after the initial draft. I would only ask that council spend a significant amount of time reading the sections from section the system operation section onward. This talks about our strategic and tactical issues. It talks about what we need. You'll be seeing quite a lot of the suggestions or issues identified here coming for you as budget items very soon. Specifically around measurement. We're going to have to spend quite a bit of money on updating our systems. The other message that I want to bring across to you is on page. Sorry, all the way in here. It's the consumption. It's in the strategic section. It's on page 32 of the report, page 181 of the current council agenda.
Sorry, which page was that?
32 of the report at the bottom.
Page 181.
And 181 of the package.
Thank you.
So this is 8 years of water consumption, which has been increasing at a pretty linear rate. And linear is significant of about 11% a year. That's the dotted yellow line you see there. We haven't added residents. I have no reason to believe that residents are consuming water in a different way. This represents increasing leakage in our mains network. And is of great concern because it moves a little bit in one direction every year and doesn't move back. It keeps moving.
Until it snaps.
Until it snaps. And so you took the words out of my mouth. A water main break would be catastrophic because it would empty 780,000 imperial gallons of water through people's houses. It would wash them away. Several. We cannot afford a water main break, which means we are really, that's why you're going to see it in the budget. So we're going to have to fund.
That's a question because I did hit a water main in my first house and it did wash the houses I call them my downstream neighbors. But they were able to shut that off within about 15 minutes. So if something like that happened here, could we not shut that off just because this sound?
Depends on the time and the day.
But
our guys are here from 7 to 3, Monday to Friday. And if it's in that time, we can probably get to it in less than 10 minutes. If it's not in that time, it's going to be hours.
Okay, so
the tanks will be empty.
We're going to have to come up with a plan B then. Since you're throwing this out there because that's important. The water main coming apart.
And the other part about that is we don't have a lot of valving, right? So because they shut off in 10 minutes, they're going to shut off everyone's water supply in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So no one's getting water until we fix it because we don't have enough valving and zone valving. We can go shut off a block.
Yeah, it won't be the
some places we can, some places we can't.
That's correct. So the point there is only that we are aware of this issue, and the solution is to replace water mains. And you'll be seeing one of these projects come before you. We have not yet heard on this so-called DMAF Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund grant. Although I have seen hints in the press that people are indicating projects that sound very much to me like DMAF grant funded projects. So I think we will hear imminently. The answer will probably be no. We will not get it. We will have to fund these things ourselves. First one is the so-called CUB project, Center Upper Bayview, $3.71 million.
What the two asbestos pipe sections cost?
This is one of those. The other one is on Ocean View. That's slightly less imperative than this one. So that was all by way of leading. I don't want to frighten people, but I do want to make people fearful.
Come with some solutions. It's good to hear the problems, but we need some solutions.
We have to replace the water mains.
Okay, so those I need the asbestos ones. What's the cost of replacing those?
$3.7 million
for the two of them.
No.
One.
No, one is
what would the two cost?
Can't just do it. The asbestos is not the part that's going to break, it's the cast iron part that's going to break. The asbestos, as it says in the report, we test for asbestos. So far, there is none. Health Canada doesn't even have asbestos guidelines. The EPA does, and we adhere to those in an abundance proportion. As you'll see, we make very good, very safe water, better than most. This is why Vancouver Coastal Health is less draconian with us than there are with a lot of communities. We haven't had a boil water advisory since 2014 because they know we run our water system properly.
Britannia and Furry Creek are on well water. Have we looked at a well water, drilling for well water, and what's the ramifications on our filtration if we drill for well water?
If it's deep well water, not influence of surface water, you don't even have to treat, let alone filter. But it's very likely, and you will see this in the budget, that we will drill a test well in the Alberta. It's $60,000 although test wells have been considered before, there's a report that Vancouver Coastal Health has. It's our report, but I couldn't find it on the server, but VCH had it. That the wells will not be deep enough because bedrock, that we will hit bedrock before we become a deep well. And therefore will need to be treated. We don't have a supply problem, we have a distribution problem. Wastage problem. We have enough water. We just don't distribute it right. That's the problem.
I think we need to visit, have a visit with Furry Creek and Britannia and maybe see how they're handling their well water. I know I tried to look online. It's tough to get information. There's about 6 wells between here and Britannia. One of them is right there's a capped off one right by the
But getting more water doesn't help us solve the problem. We've got to stop leaking, wasting.
Well, I know, but we have a fear of our water up in the watershed, and we're worried about people in our watershed. If we've got well water, that the danger goes away somewhat.
If it's deep wells,
So,
if it's shallow wells.
If we have these water warnings and that, we drill for water. We might alleviate some of that concern as well. So, but mainly it's, the potential of poisoning our watershed. And that could happen in a heartbeat if we have a forest fire. So, I am all for drilling and testing wells, and I think we should be moving on that as quickly as possible. And if we
budgeting for one next year. And we already know where it's going to be.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. There's no real decisions to be made as a result of this report, other than please read it. It's pretty good.
I've got a couple of observations.
Yeah, go ahead, Noel.
Okay, on page 157, Colin, where we're talking about the various creeks and the percentage that we use,
Yes,
I think there's a mistake there.
but that's not a mistake.
Well, okay, well, the math doesn't add up. Should we put it that way then? Intentionally, the math doesn't add. So I'm talking about on magnesium.
The over percentage.
We've got a total of 99,000. Right? Which equals 63%.
Okay, I'm gonna make another suggestion that this is an item that we might be able to take offline.
Okay.
Because we will run out of time tonight.
Steve understands.
No, that's
Now that could be taken offline.
Let me take a second. I just want to bring up another point. So the other thing that, in the report, we're talking about things we need to do that we need to draw people's attention to is the highway tank, which we know is on the list and is now probably going to the top of the list.
Yeah.
And that might well be one of the places where we speculate we're losing a lot of water.
That's correct.
So that's something that needs to, maybe even before we fix a pipe. It's bizarre that it seems we're going to have to fix that first.
So what Councillor Abbott's referring to is the highway tank, which is just down here. I'm nodding towards it.
It's on page 174.
We believe, based on diver inspection that's written about in this report, that the tank itself is leaking through its own floor. The tank, I've now fessed up to VCH, we are condemning it. We either have to replace it with another breakhead tank. It's not a storage tank as such. It's really just substitutes for a PRV, or as a PRV. We are already scoping the PRV. The problem is that site belongs to the Ministry of Transport, and they can't find the original license of occupation and are wanting to have a very fancy new one now. So we have to replace the highway tank next year. Luckily, these things are done modularly, so may vary. But the issue is next year. The issue is not supply. The issue is distribution. We have to get rid of half of our leak problem. I estimate we have numbers which I haven't had time to analyze yet because long story. I estimate we're leaking more than half our water from the graph that I showed you on
Consumption doubled in 6 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. I read the report and it's excellent. It's really impressive. And but if the village reads nothing else, if you read the letter, the opening letter from the Vancouver Coastal Health person, Ed. It's an outstanding letter and gives incredible compliments to our staff. And just would really, really applaud the job that they're doing, they have done and are doing. So.
Yeah, and that's not me. So I would echo that, that's our operators. They are incredibly dedicated. And you know, on a day like today, they're probably checking every 2 hours overnight. When it's rainy or windy, they're on live watching. Except for the one plant now, which is down.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so the recommendation is only receive the report.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Just so you know, when you adopt the agenda, you're automatically receiving everything.
So, Colin, there was something in
Thank you.
your recommendations, the council directs staff to add the report to the village website. So there was a direction.
There was one additional rec, and that was to direct staff, not that much direction we needed because we'll do it anyway, but to emphasize putting the report on all of our communication channels.
So is that something you would normally talk to the CAO about and you guys just go about and then put that on the website?
Well, council might not want it disseminated. Or
Why wouldn't we? We've always talked about open, transparent communication.
There you go.
Okay.
You put it on the,
Done.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, item B, committees, Board of Variance minutes from February 8th, 2023 to be received for information. Any comments?
No.
Not from me.
Okay. Item number B2, Board of Variance minutes from August 30th to be received for information purposes. Any comments? Okay.
so if I could help, so with this next, these are very long resolutions. So if the council is of the mind to approve these, all you need to do is say. The motion needs to be, I recommend, or I move that the recommendation. Set out in the agenda pertaining to tree application 129 be approved. So that's sort of reference rather than reading it line by line, unless of course you don't want to adopt the whole recommendation, then you'll have to customize it.
Okay, so this is in regards to B3 trees, views and landscape. Okay, so item number 129, we have a motion to approve. Okay, seconder. Okay, discussion.
I've had a look at this and I'm not necessarily objecting to these per se, but I'm a little puzzled by why we didn't get any minutes from the meeting. Normally we get the minutes from the meeting and explain the decision, and it's not in the package this time. Did they not give, the committee not give minutes?
I've
So
got
it's
a
difficult
follow-up
to
question.
approve.
I've got a question. I've got the same issue here. Did the committee even meet to consider these
I was there, the committee
applications?
met. I was there, the committee met, we walked through it with in the one instance, Bayview, we walked through it with the resident immediately that had put the application in. We reviewed that. In Calvin Grove, we also reviewed that.
So why are there no minutes or recommendations?
Good question. Or any minutes to see?
Yeah.
Okay, the minutes were received by staff. I think they've just haven't made it to the agenda. However, there is detail on the agenda. You'll see all the applications and all the neighboring residents who were all, none of them objected from what I saw.
I guess the question I was asking is not whether staff received the minutes, but whether minutes were produced by the tree committee.
Did you receive?
Yes, and in the minutes, they only had that recommendation before.
Okay, they put the recommendations forward, which is how many pages does that include?
7 minutes.
Yeah.
2 pages, and then it was just under new business. They put forward their committee.
And what about the information from the residents?
Is that?
That's in the package.
So it's in the package, it's extensive. Okay, so,
So
any comments, any further comments, Councillor Abbott?
I have a comment, and the reason I was looking for the minutes is the tree on, which one's on 129. This is going back to something that I've brought up several times. Did someone actually measure the tree and confirm that it was not a significant tree? Somebody got out of step with the committee last year over these things was because no one actually measures the tree to see if it meets that part of our bylaw. And I'm guessing the answer is no.
I did not see a measurement of the tree. What I did see was the driveway is collapsing and.
Yeah, I understand the motivation, but we have a bylaw that says if it's a significant tree, think about this. The guys have to get and have a measuring the tree and see if it meets that criteria. I don't know if it is, I don't know that it's a significant tree. It looks about the size or close to.
Okay, I'm gonna say that common sense that was used by the tree committee, and there's experts within the tree committee, is the driveway is heaving, it's breaking up. They consulted with all the neighbors and they're in the reports. None of the neighbors objected. So.
Okay, can I say again, I've got the same concern about the tree there. I mean, that's just a bylaw. That's something that needs to be followed. I think we've covered this this question often enough that the committee needs to demonstrate that it has taken those things into account and provide I have no evidence before me that the tree committee even met and did this work. I'd like to move these recommendations along, but I would ask that the tree committee produce minutes and put them into the agenda so that we can see what they're up to.
Councillor Reuter, did you not hear me say that I was there? The tree committee met, we met on both sites. And then perhaps I didn't hear that, but now you're questioning the integrity of
No,
councillors, the mayor, and the committee.
I'm
And
making a different
volunteers,
point.
by the way, these are all volunteers.
I'm making a different point, which is why did the tree committee not see fit to include the minutes in the package so that we can move this process along?
Marcus, maybe I can help out here. You can't hear Marina. Marina told us there were minutes. She didn't include them, she just sent them to us. All the minutes stated was the recommendation. It didn't do anything else.
I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
We're opposed to one and not the other.
Just opposed or nay or yay? That's all we need to hear. So we
Well,
move
there's two,
right out of time.
there's
here.
two applications.
Finish the discussion.
Okay, I'm opposed, but I'd like to see
That's all I'm
why.
asking for. Is the first one. I read the number. You're opposed or you're for?
On 129, I'm opposed.
Yes, okay. Council Reuter?
Opposed on
Okay,
129.
motion carried.
Can I ask
Okay.
whether anyone would like to be recorded opposed?
I would.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the
And I
next.
prefer if the minutes stated why I was opposed.
Okay, we'll move to the next, the tree on Bay Ridge. There's tree application 126, and that is 395 Bayview Place. Okay, do we have motion? Okay, second. Okay, discussion. Councillor, I don't know if we'll start with you. We'll go around the table.
I support the recommendations of the tree committee.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
1 second. No, I'm good with this one.
Okay, Councillor Reuter.
Yep. I mean, I've just received the minutes, have had no time to study them. So again, I cannot provide an opinion.
Okay, all those in favor, call the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed?
I will abstain because I have not had an opportunity to study the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
So if I could be clear, abstention means a vote in favor.
Okay, so you're voting in favor, Councillor Reuter.
Understood.
Okay, motion
Rigorously in favor.
Okay. And did you want to be recorded as abstaining?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Okay, the CAO is saying he can't do that.
Very well. I have no audio. If anyone can hear me, I have no audio. I cannot hear you at all. No audio.
Yeah.
Okay, I have audio. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we're back. Okay, perfect.
Lions Bay Beach Park, Councillor Conlon, Councillor Barton.
I think we heard it already.
Okay, so we'll be meeting Thursday.
Want to draw attention to anyone who wish to read there's a one page in the agenda and the report that was given this evening will be online. I think there's one adjustment needs to be made to the presentation and then it will be posted online.
Right, good. Okay,
There's a page in there in error.
all right. Item number C, emergency services, fire chief information report from Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports, and the recommendation from our fire chief, I believe, was that the information report, fire chief community funding and supports UBCM CRI grant application be received, and that council permit Frontiera Solutions to submit the grant application on behalf of the village of Lions Bay. Do we have a motion?
If I could, you don't need the first part of that motion, and you just need to change the word from permit to authorize. So the functional recommendation before council should be the council authorize Frontiera Solutions to submit the grant application. Should specify the UBCM CRI grant application on behalf of the village of Lions Bay.
Okay, do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, second. Good. Discussion,
No, this is great to get them.
Councillor Abbott.
We'll do it again, EPC meeting, I think we need one.
Yeah.
This is where this gets discussed, the 25,000 critical infrastructure wildfire mitigation. We've already done that, we got that grant and we've done the work. And you need to check if you can do it twice. And what do we still need to protect? Because we've done all the water tanks, we've done Kelvin Grove beach area where the sewage treatment plant is. We did outside the office here. I think that has been done and dusted.
I would have thought that I would have hoped that the fire chief would have been here to be able to answer questions. I should have perhaps confirmed that. As far as I understand it, in part, and I just have that partial understanding. This grant will also pay for in part a fire smart.
Yeah, that's the second bullet.
Yeah, person. So unfortunately, I can't provide more information than that. So if council is uncomfortable moving forward, I don't know how time sensitive this is. Certainly, I can, if council is uncomfortable with moving forward with this, I can have it on the next agenda. And hopefully the fire chief will be, make himself available.
Item page 263, I think, outlines our fire chief's recommendation. Councillor Conlon.
Is there any harm in allowing them to just go ahead and apply for the grant? If we don't qualify, we don't qualify, and then end discussion?
Or some piece of it, yeah.
Would we get what we get and we don't get upset?
I don't, I'm looking at his recommendation here. To me, it's quite clear. He's going after critical infrastructure wildfire mitigation. He's talking about a temporary fire smart coordinator.
And 50,000 for equipment.
So I mean, there's no harm in anything. And look, I think the fire chief could use all the support of the council. So
Question?
okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm in favor. I want to talk a bit further about this,
Okay,
but I guess we're not.
Councillor Reuter.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to speak to it, so Ken, you've spoken extensively, but you might want to allow other councillor members to speak.
Point taken. Opposed, nay or yay?
I can't vote on this. You haven't allowed me to ask any questions.
Abstention. I'll mark that as abstention. Motion carried. Okay, next item, mayor's year-end report be circulated. Okay, I'll circulate that. I think I circulated it to you. The Blackwell.
It's in front of each member of council.
I gave it to you October 16th, I think it was.
Did Marcus get a copy?
But everyone has that.
Oh, we've seen
Yeah,
it.
okay, good.
We've seen it before.
Okay. So it's to be received, you don't have to vote on it unless you want to comment, if you'd like to comment. Oh, okay, I'll move to item number 2, which Finance Committee, I think that's for receiving as well. Any comments? Oh,
Yeah, I've got a comment on that.
all right.
We had our previous municipal advisors advise us that the terms of reference for a standing committee must be approved by council. Section 52, as I've mentioned a number of times going back months, of our procedures bylaw requires that committees undertake review into matters as directed by council. This committee has never undertaken review into matters as directed by council. And as such, I've referred to it multiple times as a purported committee. If this were a committee that were looking at where to place flowers and vases at highway entrances, that'd be one thing, but they are accessing privileged and private confidential financial information pertaining to the village. I see that the budget that we discussed with Mr. Cherkoff contains a provision for the purported finance committee to opine on the budget. I don't see any legitimacy to this committee, and I would object to that, as I would point out again that they have never received any direction by council, and this finally needs to come to an end. The further matter that I want to address is that a resident spoke to council and had a question for council, the mayor specifically, and for this group to be responding on behalf of council in a written statement is entirely out of order. I mean, I'd ask for some direction from our corporate officer on this.
Okay, I'll respond to that before we ask for direction. As you know, standing committees are the preview or the authority of the mayor. And we've gone through that. We've gone through that with our former provincial advisors, Councillor Reuter.
Yes, we have.
And I would have thought that we had exhausted that because, as you know, standing committees are the authority of the mayor. Okay. And furthermore, these are volunteers. They put in their time and they've actually recognized and identified some areas that were of serious concern. As they said, it's a 5-alarm fire. It took council a month to finally approve them, but council did approve them. And I can read them, and they're all to do with banking controls. They're removing single signing authority from a $5.8 million bank account.
A conspiracy which has been debunked multiple times.
Councillor Reuter, please let me finish. Our money was earning low interest rates. We now are earning much more interest rate in excess of 100,000. Okay, and this is all due to the financial for this committee. And these are volunteers. Like, when are we going to start taking care of the business of the community instead of nitpicking and challenging our volunteers? I just don't get it. I think it's beyond comprehension to me, and it's unbecoming of councillors or a mayor if I'm attacking. All right.
Through the mayor.
CAO, can you please, Ross Blackwell, can you please comment on this?
Through the mayor, could I speak to that? I heard the CAO as the corporate officer speak earlier this evening, identify that the Finance and Audit Committee is a legitimate committee that is operating under the rules and regulations of the community charter. And I don't think that we need to spend any more time on this. This report has been received. There was a question that was brought forward to council and there was a reply given which explained exactly what the interest earned on the funds were, which was a very material item to this community. So
In regards to responding to a resident of the community, I thought that was rather kind because the committee took the position of not naming the residents and just pointing out that things are moving along. We're actually earning more interest than was anticipated. Okay, do we have a motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Reuter, thank you. Motion carried. Meeting's extended.
Could we hear from the CAO on this, or Neville, if you have a point?
Yeah, I was hoping not to discuss this because we've discussed it too many times, but seeing everyone else is going to comment, I'll comment. First of all, the resident's point that was made was not addressed in this answer. And if we'd all had time or come to council, I could have pointed that out. The resident's point was asking that someone identify what the additional interest we made would have been had interest rates stayed the same as last year. And that's not addressed here at all. That was the crux of the question. So it was never even answered. So yeah, I believe it should have come to council for direction.
Point of order.
Have to finish talking.
No, I'm just going to point of order. Can I
You have no point of
answer
order.
that question or not?
Well, if there's a point of order to be made, can, but if it's a question of clarifying or commenting on the normal practice is to wait for the speaker to finish it.
Okay, apologies. Continue on, Councilor Abbott.
Okay. I'm also tired of hearing about 2 signatures on a check. We have never issued a check in this village with 1 signature on it. Find one, show me one, or stop talking about it. Not accurate.
I'm going to respond to that.
I'm not finished.
And
The chair is out of
our
order.
CAO at the time, Anthony Tobin, specifically sat with the bank manager, as did I. And the bank manager said the $5.8 million was susceptible, checks could be written by one person, and that one person was a bookkeeper in our community. And that is just not proper financial controls. And you were aware of that, and it took you a month to finally approve it. And I've got the resolution that this was unanimously carried. You finally accepted it after 1 month. And you threw your hands up in the air and said, I admit I was wrong.
Okay.
You remember that? You were sitting right where you are here. Put your arms up. You said, I am wrong.
Don't speak for me, Ken.
Well, that's exactly what you said. I want to hear you say that to the community, that these financial controls were not in place. And furthermore, we were kind enough not to directly go back to the resident.
I never.
So the whole community actually knows that is the former mayor's wife. So I wish that she had identified some of these financial controls well in advance of our term.
Ken, I never argued against putting in better financial controls. When did I ever do that?
You said, I admit I was wrong.
Stop speaking for me. I did not. And to the point that these resolutions were approved. No, they weren't. One was approved, and that was the signing authorities, and it was only approved when we added back in the financial accountant, and we revised it. That was the only way it was approved. So the whole report is erroneous.
I'm going to interview you, and I'll interview Anthony Tobin, and I'll interview the financial committee.
Orders of the day.
Okay.
And the bank manager described it as a key.
And by the way, you had no authority when Anthony Tobin, the former CAO, and I were in the bank manager's office, and you were phoning the bank manager directly. Like, where does that happen? Where someone goes past?
You and your committee told me to. You and your committee told me to check it out for myself, and that's what I did. Yes, you did. Why don't you check it out for yourself? So I did.
You know what? Anthony Tobin commented directly. That's totally out of order.
Well, then you shouldn't have told me.
Just as it is now.
David shouldn't have told me to do it.
Orders of the day.
I want to move on. I want to move on and get on
Orders of the day.
Get on business.
This point of accurate information here. No one has ever, this is the first time I've heard the point that interest rates have gone up, that has changed the interest.
Exactly what Mary McLaughlin asked.
The point that was raised by the committees was that there was approximately a 2% difference between the account that the funds were in and the account that it should have been in. And essentially, whether it's 2% to 4%, 4% to 6%, 6% to 8%, there was approximately a 2% difference identified, which on 5.8 million generates approximately $100,000 a year. So that is the point that's being raised. I mean, we can argue about whether all around this, but the point is that the financial controls were not adequate. They were identified by individuals as being inadequate. The fact that the bank identified that it was possible for someone to write for one signature to sign a check according to their controls. No one said that anyone ever did that. However, you have controls in place in order to ensure that it does not happen. And we are happily it did not happen. So I think we need to be hard on the issues here and not get into all this people stuff.
Hey, Councillor Conlon.
Can I ask that we move on? This has been discussed at length many times, and we just had a report to receive and it turned into this.
Okay, item number D4, and Councillor,
three.
Mayor Town Hall, Parking Task Force, Highway Noise. I would like to move forward on having a town hall on a task force, because I believe that these issues have been put off long enough. And to put this in a positive light, I think we've seen earlier this evening the outcome of a group of residents with the Beach Park Committee, and that started out as a task force. It actually started out as a town hall meeting, formed into a task force, and then that morphed into a committee. So I think there's a lot of residents that are reaching out to us and want these issues addressed. So that's my point for putting them on the agenda. Councillor Conlon.
I am in complete agreement. My only suggestion is that we bring this either to our strategy session or committee of the whole, and then we can have a more wholesome discussion and formulate an action plan. I don't think that it's necessary to spend too much time on this evening. But definitely in the spirit.
Okay, and that's why we have it. That's what
when we have more time.
I'll give you the background on the beach committee. The staff said it can't happen, and I put up my hand and I said, you know what, leave it to me. I'll contact a few residents. We got a town hall meeting happening, and it went forward, and it turned out to be a really positive experience.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that maybe we've discussed this in the.
But my purpose is that let's let the community lead this. They're hungry to get something going. So.
I'm not in disagreement. I like said we spend time.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
We have other discussions for strategy session or committee of the whole, which is coming up.
Yeah, just very briefly. We have been talking about strategy sessions and committees of the whole since, I believe, November the 8th of last year. And these committees have not been struck. We've had multiple presentations of people requesting these committees be struck. I'm suggesting that because a committee is an advisory committee, that if Mayor were to go ahead with a task force, you put a 90-day time limit on it, you ask people to come together, brainstorm, put together ideas, and bring those ideas forward. I think there's an incredible amount of interest, concern, and I think that the best way that we can value that concern and hear that concern is to bring the people together who are really interested and really concerned about the situation, and brainstorm, document their concerns, and then bring that to council, which will inform a discussion in terms of how we proceed from there. Do we put a committee together? What does a committee look like? What are its terms of reference? But I think if we can just tap into this incredible energy that's there. There are a huge number of people who are concerned about parking. And we could bring people together from different areas of the community and quickly and draw on their expertise. In terms of highway noise, we have some people in the community who have had extensive experience elsewhere and people who are living it every day who really want to input and really want to research and really want to help. So I think any way that we can tap on that energy and to say we're going to study it in a subsequent meeting, which is something we've been saying for the better part of a year, I just think it doesn't wash. I think we really need to get this moving.
Okay. Councillor.
If I could just clarify, I was by no means suggesting that we don't move ahead with that. I was just suggesting that in the essence of time management for this evening, that we just talk about this discussion, have this discussion at another time. So our precious time that we do have left is used to get through the agenda.
Okay, I'll be very short and succinct. Michael, you're wrong. We did have a committee of the whole meeting to discuss committees. We did that and we came up with recommendations and we approved them at the council table. What we haven't done, and we keep asking to do, is get that committee, I'll go back and visit those decisions and change them because they already are decisions of council. That's how we have to go about this. Let's just have the meeting and discuss who's on what committee or kill the committees we don't want. But let's go have the meeting. That's what we've been trying to do for ages.
I know.
Okay, the mayor has
Trying to go on, but we haven't.
the mayor has the prerogative to call residents together as a task force, and it's not a committee, it's not a standing committee, select committee, or anything. It's just calling some residents together. So leave that with me because this is dragged on, and I'll be speaking with the residents that are concerned about it.
Because you won't call a meeting. Call a meeting. We can sit down half an hour. We can all be in agreement. We can all be positive. We can all go out with the same message. Have the meeting. Why does it have to be?
The mayor call a task force together. Yes, okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Councillor
No,
Brown.
just a moment, please. Just a moment,
Okay.
please. I have not spoken to this issue.
Okay,
I
go
think
ahead.
I want to echo what Jamie and Neville were saying, is that this conversation needs to take place as a part of a larger conversation where we need to revisit committees. We had a committee of the whole, we'd made decisions, we've always agreed to revisit that. And insofar as I see these task forces as a workaround to that, we should stop beating around the bush and have that meeting and decide, excuse me, I have the floor. And have this discussion as part of revisiting what our committees will be and what the committee assignments will be and whether and what committees we need. That's the simple and right way to do this.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, Councillor Brown. It's a Howe Sound Community Forum. If you'd like to give us.
Okay, in the interest of time, I have done a one-page sheet. The mayor and I both are members of the Howe Sound Community Forum. It's an incredibly important group to be involved with. I would encourage all council members to attend I believe the next one's in West Vancouver in the spring. The one in Whistler had both our MP, our MLA, most of the mayors of the region, and an incredible number of other participants. And being that it is in West Vancouver, if you can make some part of that day, it's a very, very important group, which of course was born in Lions Bay. So and led by leaders from Lions Bay. So anyway, I'll leave it to the one page that was provided.
Okay, any questions for Councillor Brown? That's all. Okay, we'll move on to item number 9, Councillor Abbott. Name protected and conservation areas database.
Okay, I'm going to try to be brief as well, assuming people have read the report that I submitted. Just to remind you, it came to council correspondence September the 8th. And really briefly, what it boils down to is the federal government realized when after they made the COP15 commitments about protecting 30% of Canadian lands, that the one place they didn't actually understand how much land was protected was at the municipal level, because there's no data registry for that. So Nature Canada were given the task, they paid to do this, doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to change anything, all we need to do is show them our existing zoning and they will put us on the register. I see there's no possible reason not to do it. It doesn't commit us to anything. If we change some zoning, we just change the register. There's other than it gives us some maybe a use of some positive sort of publicity about being environmentally aware, community, etc. It supports the household forum, it supports all the other environmental initiatives we're doing, lines up with all of them. So if there's any questions on the report, I can take those, but I think those are the highlights.
Okay, Councillor Broughton, we'll go to you first, Councillor Cunliffe,
Okay.
Councillor Reuter, and Councillor Abbott.
I'm just a little bit concerned that some of the regions that are currently identified and probably would go into this registry would be, for example, the pit, I believe is part of it, and the school site, both of which may ultimately we may be looking to rezone or.
So if we chose to rezone them, as I said, this does not commit us any more or less than our current zoning. All it does is quantify our current zoning. So if we changed it, change it, and then they change the register. It doesn't force us.
Okay.
It doesn't make it any more onerous to change something.
Maybe. Okay.
So there were 3 recommendations. Should I read them quickly? Okay, the recommendations were council direct staff to sign the attached consent form. And that staff support BC Nature to assess our participation in the Canadian Protected Conserved Areas database. And the staff provide an update for council outlining their progress at the regular council meeting of 21st November.
Want to second that?
Please. Thank you.
Just.
Okay,
Question to the CAO.
I'm sorry.
Is there any, do you have any concerns about, is there any commitment of, in terms of zoning or our understanding is that, it doesn't commit us to this particular zoning for a particular area, but is there any red flags for you on?
Unfortunately, I have not read this at all, so I'm not in a position to compare it.
I attended the webinar, the questions asked several times. It does not commit you, and it's in their letter and it's in the report. It does not commit you to anything more than you currently have. And if you wish to change it, you change it and they change the registry. It's just quantifying the number. That's all it's doing.
Councillor Abbott. Councillor Abbott, Councillor Reuter.
Yeah, no brainer to me. Neville, thank you for your good work on this. Completely in support, ready to vote.
Okay, my only comment is I would like to have our CAO review this in a little bit more detail because I don't know whether this could sterilize any of our lands within the village because and again, this might be off in left field. I really don't know, but if this was to sterilize any of the lands in the village assets for 10 years down the road, 20 years, 50 years down the road, I'd want to know that in advance. So
for the third time, it does not, and it's in the.
Okay, I'd like to refer to our CAO, who's a land planner by trade, and perhaps he can come back to us and give us more information. So that's just my provision.
No concern.
If that is the will of council, just need a referral motion to refer the report to staff to me for further down.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Well, we first vote on my motion for staff just to go on with it? Not just read
I'm
a
putting forward
motion
an amendment to refer this, so I'm making a motion to refer it to our CAO staff.
We have a motion on the table.
The
We have a motion on
does
the
exactly
table.
that. And the motion on the table.
No, the motion on the table is to instruct.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that motion that I'm.
Sorry, I gotta jump in here.
Yeah.
So a referral motion supersedes. So council has to
Okay.
debate a referral motion first. And then if it fails, it goes to the main motion, which is the motion that Councillor Abbott just finished reading.
Okay, so I'd refer it because I would like our CAO, who's got experience in land assembly, land planning and so on. And I have some fear that if there's any possibility that this is sterilized, and this isn't so much for in the next 5 years, I'm thinking many years down the road, I would not want to see the village subjected to that. So I'd like a little bit more information on it. I'll call the question on deferring it to the CAO. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
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 Okay, back to the original motion. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Mark me as opposed, because I would like you to review this. Still like you to review it.
I don't think.
Can I make a motion that we have our CAO come back with some?
We've already passed the motion. Don't worry, there's nothing to concern about. I'm sure you will review it anyway. If there's some concern, you'll come and tell us.
Okay. All right.
So if I could propose this to council, it is almost 25 past. There's several matters left on this agenda, and there's quite a number of matters on the in-camera. There was discussion earlier about a special meeting on Thursday. What council could consider instead is to it's gone in my mind now, is to recess until Thursday. So you don't need a special meeting, it's just a continuation of this. And my suggestion is that given the volume of material remaining on close, you might want to start earlier this time, as in 5 o'clock, in order to be able to lead through all of the stuff on the post agenda.
Can I just say that Thursday is definitely not good for me? Could we do this next week?
No.
No. We've got a special meeting coming up on Thursday, so it's either a special meeting or.
Never heard about it. Never heard of a special meeting. When was this
Okay, it was
discussed?
talked about before, it was talked about earlier in the meeting here.
Can we adjust the time to try accommodate someone that can be there? Whether it's Friday or Wednesday or.
You can choose to recess until whatever time council just needs to simply set a date and a time.
Marcus, if Thursday absolutely can work for you, what other days could sooner than sometime next week?
Next week on Wednesday would work. Anything before then does not work for me.
I'll be announcing a special meeting on Thursday. So we're either, the suggestion here is we do a recess till Thursday, or we continue at 10:30, the meeting's over. So one way or the other, whatever you'd prefer.
I'd like to do a recess when everyone's available.
The matters that we need to discuss regarding the Lions Bay Beach Park are time sensitive.
That'll happen on Thursday.
We'll
have a special meeting. We'll call it Thursday. Councilor Royer can't make it. That's the absent. Councilor Abbott, hopefully you can make it. If not, we move forward to each committee. You guys tell me.
My only restraint is there's no possible way I could be here by 5 p.m.
Yeah. I think 6 o'clock. Can you do 6 o'clock? Oh.
Yes, and if I'm, like I said, I'll call if I have to.
Okay.
But that's.
So can I move that we adjourn?
Can we just take another 5 minutes to try to see if we can get this right? So special meeting on Thursday about the beach park. That was what I asked for earlier. Ken's going to call that. I don't think it's a big deal if Marcus misses that. I can be available. Others are going to be available. So you'll have a quorum on Thursday. So do the special meeting on Thursday. As to the rest of the items on this agenda, the full council meeting, I would like to suggest if one of the councillors cannot make that meeting, we should accommodate when everyone's available, even if that means moves to next week. What else on here is time sensitive that can't wait? Half a week.
As I said earlier, these things are never time sensitive until they pop up like mushrooms. Now all of a sudden they're time sensitive. It may be that you just run out of time and then these matters will get forwarded to another agenda. So that would be, when's the next, whatever. One of the things that was before you tonight was to establish this calendar for the rest of the year that includes committee and the whole meetings. So that's not gonna happen now, so it'll be the next council's when.
21st.
So these outstanding matters unopened close will be on the 21st. I would tell you that on the 21st, an hour is not enough for a closed agenda, this closed agenda. You're gonna need 2 hours to get through this. So the question is, do you want to spend 2 hours before 7 o'clock or after 10 o'clock?
A suggestion, Russ, why don't you bring us a really slim open agenda?
The village's work is the village's work. Unfortunately, you have a lot to do. Unfortunately.
I don't believe it's possible to meet before 6 p.m. So. And
6 p.m. is,
so 6
yeah,
p.m.
I mean,
I think that creates a hardship for one of the members, so.
So 6 p.m. it is, that's the best we can do.
Yeah.
In which case.
But you know, we've heard from the committee, they need to get going.
So for the 21st agenda, you may want to consider special resolution to extend it past 10.
A suggestion, maybe some of the things on the open that we did not get through tonight, could we address on Thursday? And address the closed portion in a separate meeting? I mean, there's only a few things left here that I see on this open agenda that we couldn't just get through on Thursday. I mean, in the absence of Marcus, but.
Well, what I heard Councillor Reuter say, I mean, maybe this is just my incorrect interpretation. That he did have some comments with respect to item number 5 and number 6 on the agenda.
Oh, the communications, yeah.
So my advice in that case, it would be just to roll these things into the 21st agenda. For open, but my concern is what you have left on this closed agenda. Which is everything, what is left is a full agenda.
So we'll have a meeting next week to finish off this agenda on Wednesday. Marcus is available.
You could also,
And then
you could also recess until a later date and time.
Wednesday next week.
I'm not in favor of that. Favor of pushing these things when we run our meetings and when we don't attend to things, and we've been coached by our CAO and we've made suggestions about moving things forward on this agenda. So that we don't run into these time constraints. I mean, we just waste so much time, in my opinion, and that's my opinion. When we could be meeting as sidebar issues on these things, and nits, as we would call them, as I've called them in the past, and it's just to be here in a committee meeting with the community and council members.
Yeah, we're wasting time right now.
We are. It's 10:29, so the meeting's going to end in 1 minute. If we would like to refer this to Thursday, I'm fine with that. So that would be a recess till Thursday. Does someone want to make a motion on that?
I think what we had before us as a suggestion was the Lions Bay Beach Park
Okay.
business on Thursday and the rest either on next Wednesday or at the following council meeting. Is that correct?
So we've got a special meeting coming, the meeting's adjourned, it's 10:30. We've got a special meeting on Thursday, so we'll meet on that. Everything else is deferred to the next council meeting, in my opinion.
Thought you wanted to get it sooner rather than later, so why would?
I'm prepared Thursday. I'm prepared to get moving on this thing Thursday, and if anything else that we can cover over, the suggestion was recess. We've sat here, you know, mixing around on this thing, and so do you want to recess? I'll do that before we adjourn this, because right now it's a
Good date when everyone's available, Wednesday next week.
okay, let's exchange emails, and because I'm gonna have to look at my calendar.
You have to pick a date and time now.
Could that be amended?
No.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned 9:30.
I'll put forward a motion we recess for Wednesday.
Gotta follow the rules.
I appreciate that.
What I love.
Special meeting, I'll put on a notice for Thursday.
Yes, I would. But as far as I understand, if you want me to help you, you want.
I do.
And